Hello, welcome to the Fanfic Majesty. 4BSFLBAG. Chapter 61. An Unpredictable Man. Open black lens bracket subscribe close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Captain of Division 3, Ichimaru Jin. Luyun raised his head, and his high-pitched voice spread to every corner of the square. In front of everyone in Gotei 13, Luyun declared his challenge grandly. A freshman blatantly challenged the team captain. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, everyone would think it was a fantasy. But this incident appeared in front of him so vividly that many people could not accept it. Could it be that the Soul Society has changed? When will new students have this qualification? Although they witnessed Luyun's challenge all the way, when they heard this sentence, many people still shook their heads blankly, unwilling to believe it from the bottom of their hearts. As we all know, the people who can become the captain of Gotei 13 are not ordinary people, and everyone has their own unique skills. Captain Yamamoto has the strongest fire element Zanpakuto, Ryujin Jaka, known as the strongest Shinigami in the millennium. And Aizen has the unsolvable Kyoka Suigetsu, and can cast illusions at will. As for Ichimaru Jin's Zanpakuto, Shinso, it is also unsolvable. It is also a pure physics Zanpakuto, but the power of Shinso far exceeds that of Oniwa. When Shinso is in the sealed state, it is similar to Wakizashi. The blade is short and looks ordinary. Once Shikai is established, it can freely expand and contract, change its length, and enhance its attack speed and power. Of course, just looking at Shikai, it seems that there is not much difference from Hozukimaru. Advertisement. However, once Bankai is behind, Shinso has heaven-defying abilities. Not only does it have 500 times the speed of sound, but it can also extend to more than 10 kilometers. What's more, in the process of retracting the blade, it will turn into dust for a moment, which contains deadly toxins that can dissolve cells. Once stabbed by Shinso, Takumi dies. In Soul Society, although no one has seen Ichimaru Jin's Bankai, no one doubts his strength. That is a genius who comes out once in 100 years, but Luyun dared to challenge him. There was an uproar in the square, and everyone was surprised by Luyun's decision. To be reasonable, although the captain of Gotei 13 has a strong combat power. But there is also a clear gap in the strength of each captain. Similar to Kuretsuchi Mayuri, the captain of the 12th division, his own combat power is not too strong, but relying on various black technologies, he can always defeat the enemy by surprise. However, Ichimaru Jin has an extremely powerful combat record. Whether it is Reiatsu or Kido, he has extremely high attainments. Not only that, but it is even more incomprehensible in terms of cutting techniques. Facing such a formidable opponent, what are Luyun's chances of winning? So, subconsciously, everyone is not optimistic about Luyun. After all, they are both geniuses, but Ichimaru Jin has become the captain within a few decades. At this time, except for Luyun, most people's eyes focused on Ichimaru Jin. They are also looking forward to how Ichimaru Jin will respond. The stands. Stared at by countless eyes, Ichimaru Jin shrugged and pretended to be helpless and said, "Oh, what a pity that I was chosen by this brat." The tone seemed to show weakness, but Ichimaru Jin did not have the slightest expression of fear on his face, but instead had a strong expectation. Advertisement. Luyun's choice is exactly in line with his wishes. Yin, as expected, he will choose you. Aizen smiled slightly, and there was a ripple in his usually calm eyes. Ichimaru Jin put his hands in his pockets, squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "Oh, this can't be helped, Captain Aizen. Since this brat chose me as an opponent, then I will guard." His eyes became gloomy and sharp, and he said coldly, "Let him see the gap between us." Brush. The moment the voice fell, Ichimaru Jin's figure disappeared from the stands and appeared in the center of the square in an instant. In an instant, the atmosphere of the meeting was pushed to a climax, and the long-awaited scene finally appeared. A showdown between geniuses and geniuses is undoubtedly hot. Whether Luyun stood out and climbed to the top of Soul Society in one fell swoop, or Ichimaru Jin won strongly and defended the majesty of the captain. No one knows the ending. Because of this matchup is even more interesting. Ichimaru Jin, are you ready? Captain Yamamoto turned around and asked majestically, "The duel between you will be the finale of this conference. No matter what the outcome is, I hope to be merciful." This sentence was undoubtedly addressed to Ichimaru Jin. Although Luyun showed great strength, in the opinion of Captain Yamamoto, the winner will undoubtedly be Ichimaru Jin. Advertisement. Don't worry, Captain. He's still a kid, and I'm not going to kill him. Ichimaru Jin waved his hand, and a fox-like smirk appeared on his face again, which was unpredictable. Just like the scene that happened in the tavern, Luyun and Ichimaru Jin looked at each other, and they could feel each other's thoughts. The difference is that Luyun was just a freshman who just joined Mao. And Ichimaru Jin is still the high-ranking captain, and the status of the two is very different. Today, just 1 year later, that gap no longer exists. Relatively again, Lu Yun is already a genius on the same level as Ichimaru Jin. He has attracted much attention, and he has openly defeated many officials, possessing convincing strength. This speed of rising like a comet is unexpected. Then, let's start the duel. After leaving a word, the figure of Captain Yamamoto disappeared in an instant and reappeared in the stands. Only Lu Yun and Ichimaru Jin were left in the center of the venue. Lu Yun, I didn't expect you to make it this far. Ichimaru Jin narrowed his eyes and smiled. When you were with Rangaku a year ago, you were still a weak brat. His words are calm and impermanent, making people feel no emotion at all, let alone guess his mind. Ichimaru Jin is like a mystery. He stretched out his sleeve robe and placed it on the hilt of Zanpakuto's sword. He smiled evilly. You are already amazing enough to defeat so many officials. But there is one thing I know very well. At this moment, a cold light flashed in Ichimaru Jin's eyes, and he said meaningfully, I'm afraid you are still hiding your strength until now. In this case, let me force out your full strength. Advertisement. Chapter 62 The Determination to Challenge Open Black Lens Bracket Subscription Close Black Lens Bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Then let me force you to use all your strength. Ichimaru Jin said with a smile on Mimi. Contrary to Lu Yun's calmness, Ichimaru Jin brings a very mysterious feeling. Like a cunning fox, and like a cold lion majesty lurking in the dark, it makes people shudder. What's more, you don't know when this lion majesty will be shot. This is the most difficult point to guard against. However, even though he felt the provocation in Ichimaru Jin's words, Lu Yun still had a calm expression on his face. His eyes were firmly locked on Ichimaru Jin, as if he was guarding against the opponent's sneak attack. No wonder, after all, you're a genius recognized by everyone by defeating Madara's third seat. Still smiling, Ichimaru Jin seemed to be afraid of Lu Yun. But in fact, not only did Ichimaru Jin's eyes not have the slightest fear, but there was a sense of joking on the contrary. Obviously, he didn't take Lu Yun seriously. It's purely a challenge and has nothing to do with other things. Lu Yun didn't say too much, he just wanted to have a fair duel with Ichimaru Jin 060 to complete the final challenge. The corner of Ichimaru Jin's mouth curled up, and he slowly pulled out Zanpakuto, and said with a smile, oh, I can't help it. Since it's an invitation from a genius student, I have no choice but to play with you. This guy is really unpredictable. Lu Yun's eyes flickered, and he thought to himself in his heart. When I fight against an opponent, I can feel a little bit of the opponent's thoughts from the eyes. Although I can't see through the opponent's mind, I can feel what kind of awareness the opponent is holding when he swings the sword. But, have to admit, I can't see through his eyes. Lu Yun's eyes became serious. Advertisement. Hey, don't look at me with such scary eyes. Ichimaru Jin raised Zanpakuto, said with a smile. My Zanpaku is called Shinso, do you know how long it can extend? It is about the length of 100 swords, so I have been called open black lens bracket 100 swords flow close black lens bracket since I was a child. Lu Yun remained silent and did not intend to respond in the slightest. Oh, you really don't give me face. Ichimaru Jin shrugged and said casually. Oh, there is no way. In order to make you understand clearly, I just need to wake you up with facts. He jumped and quickly retreated 100 meters away. At the same time, Ichimaru Jin's left arm retracted, and his right arm grasped Zanpakuto and stabbed forward. Shoot him, Shinso. With the fall of Shikai, the short dagger in Ichimaru Jin's hand burst into a dazzling light. Immediately afterwards, Zanpakuto opened black lens bracket Shinso close black lens bracket turned into a beam of light and stabbed forward quickly. Sharp offensive, accompanied by strong wind. This blow seems to be able to cut everything. It's also pure physics Zanpakuto. Lu Yun's pupils shrank suddenly, and his gaze unconsciously moved to the short blade in Ichimaru Jin's hand. Such a fast speed is almost impossible to guard against. And the powerful energy contained in the tip of the sword can easily split the enemy in half. Lu Yun's eyes were fixed, and he waved the sealed state with his backhand, placing it horizontally in front of him. Advertisement. At this time, Lu Guang followed closely, bombarding his sealed state heavily. Boom. A clear loud sound resounded, and the surface of the sealed state was continuously impacted by Reiatsu, and even dazzling sparks appeared. And the impact from the blade made Lu Yun's body move backwards. Swipe swipe. Lu Yun's feet left an obvious mark on the ground. Although he seemed to be at a disadvantage, he received the first slash after open black lens bracket Shinso, CABD, close black lens bracket Shikai without any damage. Oh, it looks like I'm showing mercy. Ichimaru Jin squinted his eyes and said, but his eyes stayed on the sealed state in Lu Yun's hand, and a trace of doubt appeared on his face involuntarily. During the collision of the blades, he also felt the reiatsu from the sealed state. Ichimaru Jin suddenly discovered that the reiatsu coming from Luyun's body actually gave him a different feeling, thicker and more domineering than other reiatsu. At this time, Luyun stepped forward and stood the sealed state by his side. The momentum continues to rise. His expression changed again, adding a touch of seriousness to the calmness. Oh, you have to be serious, but the level of white hits is limited. It's still good. Pointing the Zanpakuto knife point at Luyun again, the corner of Ichimaru Jin's mouth raised even more. It looks like a lion majesty about to strike. Shinso. Following Ichimaru Jin's shout, the streamer flashed across the air again, sharply stabbing at Luyun's body. Advertisement. However, this time Luyun did not sit still, but raised the blade on his own initiative, and said in a deep voice, I have heard your name, Ichimaru Jin, many times since I was in Rukongai. The most powerful genius in the history of the Soul Society, he became the captain of the third team at a young age. I have to say that your deeds have long been famous in the Soul Society. But this doesn't stop me from challenging you. Whether it's history or the past, everything will be cut off by my sealed state. Luyun stepped forward with a high momentum. He held the hilt of the sealed state sword tightly with both hands, raised it above his head, and slashed down in the air like a rainbow. Brush. A blow that contains determination and earnestness, is also a slash that can cut through everything. At this moment, time seemed to freeze. In everyone's field of vision, there were only two brilliant slashes interlaced with each other, finally forming an incomparably dazzling streamer, which continued to spread towards the surroundings. The duel between the two must also be determined by a knife. Everyone is looking forward to. Luyun once defeated Madarame Makaku in the last battle. Will he continue the miracle this time? Boom. Streaming light overflows, sweeping all around. At this time, a muffled hum suddenly sounded amidst the deafening explosions. Everyone looked along the track of the sound, and suddenly found that Ichimaru Jin's body was constantly retreating, and blood was overflowing from the corner of his mouth. Obviously, in this slashing duel, he was suppressed. Advertisement. Chapter 63 Bankai. Open black lens bracket subscribe close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Everyone looked along the track of the sound, and suddenly found that Ichimaru Jin's body kept retreating, and blood was overflowing from the corner of his mouth. In this slash duel, Ichimaru Jin was actually suppressed. Even after Zanpakuto was liberated, Ichimaru Jin was still repelled head-on in a pure slashing duel, and even vomited blood from his body due to the recoil. Anyone who witnessed this scene with their own eyes went blank, and their hearts were extremely shocked. In the unawakened state of Zanpakuto, Ichimaru Jin can be repelled by ordinary slashing. Such a stark contrast undoubtedly highlights Luyun's almost monster, terrifying power. What's even more shocking is that even after achieving such an impressive result in a head-to-head confrontation, Luyun still didn't change his face, as if this was a matter of course. Of course, in Luyun's understanding, this should have been the result. With the power of One Punch Man, once he gets serious, even he is afraid of himself. Because he will destroy Soul Society once he disagrees. On weekdays, Luyun tried his best to restrain his power to prevent the power in his body from running wild. And in this year, he has perfectly mastered the balance between Reiatsu and power. Even if he has not awakened Zanpakuto, what he holds in his hand is just a sealed state, but he can use the sealed state to display the power of One Punch Man, so as to achieve a one-shot kill. It can be said that this unawakened sealed state is very extreme. It is one of the most powerful Zanpakuto even among ordinary blades, Wendy is among ghosts. Because it can crush everything just by slashing. Advertisement. Facing Ichimaru Jin's fierce pursuit, Luyun showed no mercy. A serious hit represents his attitude, which is to treat Ichimaru Jin as an equal enemy. Sure enough, even though Zanpakuto, Shinso, erupted with amazing power, it was still repelled by a single blow. Wow. Ichimaru Jin's body backed up uncontrollably, and in the process, the blood from his mouth splashed and stained the ground. Thorn. In the end, he held Zanpakuto with his backhand and stabbed fiercely into the ground before he managed to stabilize his body. It's a pity that his image is completely different from before, very embarrassing. After forcibly withstood the serious blow, Ichimaru Jin wore the captain's exclusive white haori that was completely broken, and even the word 3 engraved on the back disappeared. Not only that, but the Shiba outfit was torn from top to bottom, revealing white arms. He was panting continuously, his face was pale, and Reiatsu disordered inside. His slash is so terrible. Ichimaru Jin's pupils shrank suddenly, and he recalled the moment when the slash collided just now, and a strong life and death crisis was born in his heart. Fortunately, at the last moment, he retreated in time to avoid more impact. Otherwise, Ichimaru Jin even has a strong premonition that his body will in half. Advertisement. If you want to defeat him, you must not fight in close quarters. Ichimaru Jin stared at Luyun, his face no longer had the relaxed and freehand expression before, only a strong color of fear. Before this battle, he talked and laughed happily in the stands. Although he kept showing weakness in his mouth, he never thought that he would be suppressed in his heart. It wasn't until the moment they fought against each other just now that he realized how stupid his thoughts were. Although Ichimaru Jin had expected that Luyun was hiding his strength, he didn't expect the latter to hide it so deeply that just memorizing ordinary slashes could injure him. What surprised Ichimaru Jin even more was that he vaguely felt that the slash just now was not Luyun's full strength. In other words, Luyun is still hiding his strength. What a scary guy. Luyun, you are as unpredictable a monster as Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin stabilized his body and said solemnly as he stepped forward. Shouldn't I say this to you? Luyun responded calmly. In his opinion, Ichimaru Jin is more unpredictable. Even at this time, Luyun still did not take it lightly, because Ichimaru Jin always gave him a feeling of, have to guard against. Oh, really? It's been decades since I think about it, and I haven't tried to be underestimated like this. Ichimaru Jin returned to his original appearance, squinting his eyes like a lion majesty and smiling slyly, his pupils there is a cold glow in the depths. Filled circle ask for flowers. Luyun, you are right, I do still have some energy left. Ichimaru Jin held Zanpakuto high, and said gloomily, you must also know that Shikai can only be regarded as the initial stage for Zanpakuto. In other words, although Shikai can exert greater power of Zanpakuto, it is not the end, and the one who can unleash the full power of Zanpakuto is Bankai. Advertisement. In fact, for any Zanpakuto, Bankai is the second stage of Zanpakuto's liberation after Zanpakuto's first stage of liberating Shikai, which requires the concretization and submission of Zanpakuto's body. After this liberation, Zanpakuto's abilities will be more thoroughly and fully developed, which is the ultimate liberation of Zanpakuto. Bankai is also one of the prerequisites for Shinigami to become the captain of the Gotei 13th Division. Ichimaru Jin held Zanpakuto Shinso with his backhand, and a strange light flashed in the depths of his pupils. He paused and said in a deep voice, you must not know, right? Mastering Bankai is one of the necessary conditions to become the captain. And the power of Bankai will be several times that of Shikai. So, are you going to use Bankai to deal with me? Although Luyun's expression did not change, a strong look of anticipation flashed deep in his pupils. If Ichimaru Jin can be forced to use Bankai, this fight will be without regrets. Tisk tisk tisk, my Bankai has never been seen by anyone except Captain Yamamoto. So, you should be proud to be able to force me to use Bankai, Luyun. Ichimaru Jin held Zanpakuto with his backhand, the Reiatsu inside him rioted, and an extremely dazzling fluorescent light shone on the surface of the tiny blade. At this moment, the link sea hidden in the surrounding air made piercing noises as if boiling. The stands. After seeing this scene, the other 12 captains, including Captain Yamamoto, all showed shocked expressions. They blurted out at the same time, exclaiming in disbelief, Ichimaru Jin, this is, want Bankai. P.S. Thanks to the two big brothers Jason Bob and Mew Mew Zunwan for their rewards, continue to ask for flower evaluation tickets, and thank you all. Advertisement. Chapter 64 The curtain ends open black lens bracket subscription close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Ichimaru Jin he wants to use Bankai. Including Captain Yamamoto, the 12 captains exclaimed in unison, and their hearts turned upside down. Although they had already overestimated Luyun in their hearts, they didn't expect him to be able to push Ichimaru Jin to such an extent. To be fair, Bankai is a Shinigami's last resort. If forced out of the Bankai, it proves that the Shinigami has been cornered. Only relying on an unawakened sealed state, Luyun actually pushed Ichimaru Jin into a corner. Everyone was dumbfounded, unwilling to believe this cruel fact from the bottom of their hearts. After all, Ichimaru Jin's identity is there, the captain of the third team. The fact that the once-in-a-century genius captain was cornered by a freshman was so shocking that it could even be called 087, a miracle. No one doubts that once this matter gets out, it will definitely cause an uproar in the Soul Society, and it will completely subvert the concept of Rukongai residence. When did the high-ranking captain fall to this level? Even if Ichimaru Jin can defeat Luyun with Bankai in the end, to a certain extent, he also lost the duel at the same time. After all, the identities of the two were not equal from the beginning. Ichimaru Jin. Yamamoto's eyes flickered, his brows were tightly frowned, and there seemed to be a hint of displeasure on his face. Advertisement. Long before the duel between the two, he had solemnly told Ichimaru Jin not to kill him. But now in front of countless people, Ichimaru Jin is trying to use Bankai, which undoubtedly ignores his words. As one of the oldest Shinigami in the Soul Society, Captain Yamamoto is well aware of the power behind Zanpakuto Bankai, and it is easy to destroy the entire square, not to mention that the center of the square is already on the verge of collapse and cannot withstand an attack of this level. Captain Yamamoto thought about it, and finally made a decision in his heart. He must stop Ichimaru Jin Bankai. At this time, the figure of Kyoraku Shunsui suddenly appeared, and he said solemnly, Master, the seriousness of the situation has exceeded our imagination. Ichimaru Jin Bankai must be stopped. Don't worry, if he is allowed to cast Bankai, I'm afraid the whole square will be turned into ruins. Captain Yamamoto shook his head, and said in a deep voice, This accident is my mistake. I underestimated both Luyun's strength and Ichimaru Jin's aggressiveness. So, this convention? Kyoraku Shunsui asked solemnly. In fact, at this point, the conference has no meaning. Captain Yamamoto said decisively, Let's stop here. The moment the voice fell, his figure disappeared instantly and reappeared in the center of the square. Enough, Ichimaru Jin. Commander Yamamoto reprimanded in a cold voice with solemn eyes. Not only that, but his old arms stretched out from the sleeve robe, and with a backhand wave, a burst of hot Reiatsu burst out like molten lava, unexpectedly forcibly suppressing the burst of Reiatsu in Zanpakuto Shinso. The strongest Shinigami of the millennium is angry. Advertisement. Bang 1. The Reiatsu rioted, colliding with each other. At this time, Ichimaru Jin's pupils suddenly contracted. He looked at Captain Yamamoto fearfully, and at Luyun unwillingly, with a complex expression. By this time, he was already stuck. If Bankai is used forcefully, it may arouse the wrath of Captain Yamamoto. But if you stop at this point, you will feel unwilling. After all, he was at a disadvantage and was obviously suppressed by Luyun. Finally, after some deliberation, Ichimaru Jin finally let go of Zanpakuto. Luyun, you are really a formidable opponent. Oh, since the old man is angry, then I will stop now. Ichimaru Jin's expression changed rapidly, the previous dignified look disappeared, replaced by the previous one a fox-like smirk, always full of mystery. He released the Shinso from the swastika state, and retracted the Zanpakuto into the scabbard. Although the image looks very distressed, there is no major physical injury, so Ichimaru Jin has returned to his previous smiling appearance. He is like a fierce lion majesty, good at disguising, good at dormant, and waiting for the opportunity tightly. And once you seize the opportunity, you will devour yourself in the most violent way. Point 0. Seeing Ichimaru Jin put away Zanpakuto, the anger in Captain Yamamoto's eyes also dissipated. He turned around, looked back and forth between Luyun and Ichimaru Jin, and finally said in a deep voice, Okay, this duel is over, you are evenly divided, and you won't win. This decision is actually to give Ichimaru Jin a step down. After all, he was obviously at a disadvantage before Bankai was used. After hearing the verdict, Ichimaru Jin shrugged his shoulders, a bitter smile rose from the corner of his mouth, but he did not refute. But Luyun nodded calmly, acquiescing to the verdict in his heart. Advertisement. Actually, the result doesn't matter, he has done everything and managed to surpass Ichimaru Jin to become a new legend. That's enough. And after this day, his identity will undergo a new change. No longer an unknown freshman, but a superstar of the Soul Society. From now on, in the star-studded Gotei 13, he will reign like a king and be revered by countless people, and all this in just 1 year. What is even more amazing is that due to his outstanding performance, Luyun even got the promise of the captain of Yamamoto. Once he graduates from Junyang Lingyuan Academy, he will have the right to choose any team. This kind of right is unprecedented. Are you finally going to become a Shinigami? It's really exciting. 3.1 inches. Luyun looked towards the high platform, and finally stopped on Rukia after passing through many figures. The eyes of the two are intertwined, and they can see the joy in each other's eyes. Since the confession that night, Rukia has decided to follow Luyun wholeheartedly, and seeing Luyun shine, Rukia is even more happy from the bottom of her heart. In addition, there was another tight-eyed Luyun in the stands, and that was Matsumoto Rangaku. When Captain Yamamoto announced the end of the meeting, Matsumoto Rangaku was happy for Luyun, but also thought of the promise he made with Luyun. Once Luyun can shine in the conference, she will promise Luyun one thing. That's a sweet kiss. Advertisement. 1%. Chapter 65. Give you a gift. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. In the early morning of the next day, the sun rose slowly. For Soul Society, this day was destined to be extraordinary. With the end of the conference, all the dust settled, and Luyun's amazing performance at the conference completely convinced everyone. Soon, stories about him spread from Jingling Court to the outside world like a hurricane, and soon swept every corner of Soul Society. Challenged Gotei 13 alone, defeated Ziguan strongly, and even suppressed Ichimaru Jin. Not to mention the final result, this courage alone is enough to make everyone praise it. What's more, he strongly suppressed Ichimaru Jin, the captain, and his performance surprised everyone. He deserves to be the most dazzling talent in Soul Society. In Chenghang district, the familiar iron shop opened. As the owner of the iron shop, Uncle Torre still lives in the Inazuri district as a bully. In the early morning of this day, when he just opened the store door, he suddenly learned about the news about the freshman meeting from the Zhongtong newspaper posted on the door. Advertisement. As expected, Lu Yun has become the best student. Uncle Torre nodded in satisfaction, with a gratified smile under his fine stubble. As early as a year ago, when he met Lu Yun, he had a strong premonition: Lu Yun would soar into the sky. Although it seemed unrealistic at first. But time flies, after all, it proves everything. Lu Yun lived up to expectations and became the most dazzling new star of Seoul society. Well, from now on, maybe we won't have any intersection with each other anymore. Uncle Torre shook his head and sighed heavily. He knew very well that soon Lu Yun would become the high-ranking Shinigami, even the chief of the Bankai. But his identity has not changed, just an ordinary iron shop owner in Rukongai. The status of the two is very different, they are already from two worlds. The fate of each other will no longer have any intersection, and the time of meeting in the past will become an indelible memory forever hidden in my heart. I think Lu Yun will definitely occupy a very important position in Gotei 13 in the future. Uncle Torre prayed silently in his heart, and he was very convinced. Whether it is a team member or an officer, it is not the end. Only becoming the captain of Gotei 13 should be Lu Yun's home. Advertisement. Gradually, stories about Lu Yun spread in almost every corner of the Seoul society, and he truly became a supernova that everyone was looking forward to. In addition, Lu Yun also broke history and became one of the only one-year freshmen in history. He took off his trainee's robe, put on a black death suit, and officially became a Shinigami. Not only that, because of the promise of Captain Yamamoto, he also has the opportunity to join any team, and even because he defeated Madarame Makaku strongly, so as long as he is willing, he is very likely to become the seat officer of any seat. All in all, from this day on, Lu Yun has completely cast aside his past, monster, identity and turned into the most dazzling talent of Seoul society. As night falls, the stars are shining brightly. The Run Lin and neighborhood is bustling and lively as always, with people coming and going in the spacious aisles. Among the complicated figures, there are two figures that are particularly eye-catching. Lu Yun, Matsumoto Rangaku. Advertisement. The two walked side by side, lingering in the crowd. It has been more than half a year since the two of them came to the Run Lin and neighborhood together last time. Over time, everything has changed dramatically. Yeah, looking back now, it's really emotional. Matsumoto Rangaku shook his head, and said with sincere emotion, "At that time in the noodle restaurant, Yin suddenly imposed Reiatsu on you. Fortunately, I stopped 540's behavior. At that time, he was the high-ranking team leader, but you it's just an unknown newcomer. But I didn't expect that after only 1 year, you would be able to suppress him in front of everyone and force him to use Bankai. I have to say, your talent is too powerful." Matsumoto Rangaku felt gratified for Lu Yun from the bottom of her heart. After all, besides being the vice captain of the 10th division, she is also Lu Yun's mentor. And being able to see the students she taught ascend to the sky in one step, she even felt more satisfied than receiving honors herself. "It's nothing. I don't care about these honors." Lu Yun responded absently. Indeed, he doesn't need any genius halo, all he cares about is gaining the respect and care of his partners. Being able to have all of this now, Lu Yun already feels very satisfied. Advertisement. Chapter 66. A closer relationship. Open black lens bracket. Subscription. Close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Under the hazy moonlight, the two figures leaned on each other. The most touching thing is not the soft moonlight, nor the shining stars in the sky, nor the secluded woods. But that sweet kiss. A kiss blended into the expression, poured into Lu Yun's heart like a warm current. At the moment when Matsumoto Rangaku's red lips were on his forehead, Lu Yun's heart finally felt a wave of waves. He seemed to feel a feeling that he had never had before, just like the ripples on the surface of a lake. The outside world spread and gradually enveloped his heart. At this moment, the iceberg deep in my heart melted instantly, and all the severe cold and loneliness were dispelled, and the dark memory of the past also dissipated like passing clouds. This passionate kiss is like a lighthouse standing on the long voyage road. It not only dispels the endless darkness, but also guides an unprecedented road, so that the future road is full of hope. There was silence all around, and even time seemed to stand still at this moment, only two figures who were closely dependent on each other. Feeling the fragrance from his forehead, Lu Yun was taken aback for a moment, and after hesitating for a moment, he immediately stretched out his arms and hugged Matsumoto Rangaku's back. Everything comes naturally. Advertisement. Suddenly being embraced by Lu Yun, Matsumoto Rangaku was taken aback for a moment, but did not resist, letting Lu Yun's arm rest on her back. Just like that, The distance between the two narrowed again, and the two figures cuddled up to each other, and they could even clearly feel each other's breathing and heartbeat. The two looked at each other and were silent, but Matsumoto Rangaku's eyes flashed a gleam. Her face was flushed, she lowered her head shyly and kept avoiding Luyun's gaze. It's not because you can avoid it, but because you can't know how to face it, so you choose to avoid it. In the past dozen years, there has never been anyone who can make Matsumoto Rangaku's heart beat. If I had to name one person, it would be Ichimaru Jin. It's just that since Ichimaru Jin became the third seat of the fifth team, Matsumoto Rangaku felt that there was a gap between himself and him. Over time, the relationship between the two has gradually become estranged from the original closeness. On the other hand, perhaps seeing the same shadow in Luyun, coupled with a year of company day and night, under the subtle influence, even Matsumoto Rangaku himself did not realize that Luyun had quietly walked into her heart. It may just be a feeling of ignorance, but once it sprouts, it will become unstoppable. The two of them hugged each other in silence in this warm and peaceful atmosphere, and the already very close relationship took a step further. Perhaps after this night, the two of them will break through the original relationship. Finally, Luyun let go of his arms, and his body took the initiative to retreat, stepping aside in a little embarrassment. And Matsumoto Rangaku's face was flushed, and he still didn't dare to look up into Luyun's eyes. I'm sorry just now, I didn't mean to. Luyun was the first to break the silence. Advertisement. Nothing. Matsumoto Rangaku raised his eyebrows and smiled, and said kindly, after all, we made an agreement before. As your mentor, I can't break my promise, right? Besides. Her voice became low, and she finally sighed reluctantly. With the strength you showed at the conference, there is no need to stay in the Junyang Lingyuan Academy. You will participate in the graduation ceremony tomorrow morning. After the ceremony, you will graduate and become a member of Gotei 13. At that time, I will no longer be your mentor. Matsumoto Rangaku's words contained both reluctance and hope. Whenever she recalls the time she spent with Luyun this year, her heart is filled with happiness. It's just that once Luyun joins the Hudding 13th team, unless he chooses the 10th team, the two of them won't be able to get along day and night like they are now. This is what Matsumoto Rangaku really regrets. Similarly, she also looks forward to Luyun's amazing performance after becoming a member of Gotei 13, and even when she will become the captain of the fan team. Luyun smiled slightly, and a hearty smile appeared on his delicate face. Instead, he took the initiative to comfort Matsumoto Rangaku, saying, "Don't worry, Mr. Rangaku, I just changed my identity, and I will still stay in Soul Society. It's not about life and death. Don't be so sad. Let it be as it is." Matsumoto Rangaku nodded, and asked back, "By the way, Luyun, do you have an idea about which team to join? You got the promise from Captain Yamamoto. In the past, ordinary newcomers did not have the right to choose a team, and most of them could not even join Gotei 13, only Luyun is the only exception." Advertisement. Backquote, well, I don't have too many thoughts. Luyun shrugged and said calmly. For him, there is no difference in which team, after all, except for the captain, other Shinigami are hot chickens in his eyes. And with Luyun's strength, even if he stays in the weakest medical team, he can stand out. Therefore, he didn't deliberately choose the fan team. It's also, with your strength, I'm afraid it doesn't make much difference which team you go to. Looking at the entire Soul Society, the only one who can become your opponent is the captain of the 13th team. Matsumoto Rangaku sighed again. Obviously it was himself. She is a student, but possesses the strength of heaven defying. This huge contrast made her unable to adapt for a while. But, she thought for a while, and then suggested, you must also know that each team has different strengths and responsibilities. Although any team, with Lee's, is suitable based on your strength, I still suggest you choose the 11th team. Team 11. Why? Luyun asked. Matsumoto Rangaku explained patiently. Because the 11th squad is the most powerful fighting squad, especially the captain of the 11th squad Zaraki Kenpachi, who is an out-and-out combat fanatic. If you want to join the 11th squad, he must be very excited about the team. That guy almost has immortality in the eyes of ordinary people. Immortal. The corner of Luyun's mouth raised, and he said with great interest. That is to say, no matter how you chop this guy, he won't fall down. In this case, joining the 11th team seems to be a very interesting thing. Although Luyun is very clear that the so-called immortality is just an exaggeration. But the title of Kenpachi, carried by Zaraki Kenpachi, has already attracted Luyun deeply. Advertisement. Chapter 67 Graduation Open Black Lens Bracket Subscription Close Black Lens Bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. In the early morning of the next day, the scorching sun was shining brightly, and everything was shining brightly. For the Soul Society as a whole, this may not be an ordinary day. But for Junyang Lingyuan Academy, This day is of great significance. Because the best student Seoul society has ever had is finally graduating. Not only did Luyun break the one-year graduation record, but he also overwhelmed the chief executives of each team to show off at the conference, and became a popular figure among the students for a while. In the spacious corridor, discussions about Luyun can be heard everywhere. Did you know? Luyun will be attending the graduation ceremony today. He is the best student Mao has ever had, if only I had his talent. It's a pity. I wanted to see more of his demeanor. It's a pity that starting tomorrow, he will be separated from us. No matter what, he will be Mao's pride, and it is said that he is quite handsome. Really? Let's go to the square to have a look. Many girls who have just entered school are blushing, and their minds are full of beautiful longings. They walk towards the square in the center of the campus in groups, just to witness Luyun's demeanor, Lucia any regrets. Advertisement. As the 600 news spread, almost every student learned about this matter. They all had the same idea, that is to witness Luyun's demeanor at the last moment. After all, with Luyun's talent and strength, the future is destined to be extraordinary, and Ichimaru Jin is the best example. In the center of the college, there is a huge square. At this time, the surrounding area of the square was densely packed with crowds of people. Almost everyone gathered on the square. In addition to the students, all the instructors gathered here, including Matsumoto Rangaku, of course. And among the crowd, there were three inconspicuous figures, their eyes fixed on Luyun tightly, with complex expressions in their eyes. Rukia, Abarai Renji, Kira Iziru. Back when the four of them came to Junyang Lingyuan together, they became new students together and practiced together, but now their encounters are very different. Although they emerged at this conference and showed a strong side, they did not attract much attention after all. After all, no matter how strong a freshman is, he is still not a true Shinigami. In addition, because Luyun's limelight is too strong, he also attracted most people's attention. Well, although I had a premonition in my heart a long time ago. But when this day really comes, I still can't believe it all in my heart. Abarai Renji changed his usual heroic appearance and sighed in a low voice. Even though the conference has ended, his thoughts still remain on that day, and Luyun's performance seems to be vivid in his memory. In fact, we have known the result for a long time, but we have been unwilling to accept it in our hearts. 11. Advertisement. Kira Iziru shook his head and said regretfully, from the half-year special training, I felt that Luyun was different. With his unremitting patience, he was destined to become famous all over the world. What's more, with the help, the three of us have also made progress beyond imagination. Although we are not yet qualified to graduate, we have become the best among freshmen. If we are given a few more years, we will definitely become Mao's best students. Kira Iziru's eyes are burning, and her heart is full of confidence. He was originally a low-key person, constantly accumulating, waiting for the day to take off. That's right, what Kira said is right, we should correct our mentality and stop comparing ourselves with Luyun. Rukia encouraged. From the very beginning, he was destined to become the star of the public's attention, and after all, we are just the people who accompanied them on the initial road. Among the three, only Rukia was filled with relief. Since she confessed her love to Luyun that day, she decided to follow Luyun wholeheartedly. And when she saw Luyun's success, Fukia was also ecstatic. There was a moving smile on her face, and her beautiful eyes were always gazing at the figure that made her proud. No matter what, I will continue to work hard, and I will definitely catch up with you. Rukia looked determined, and made a silent oath in her heart. In the center of the square, Luyun enjoys everyone's respect like the stars and the moon, and countless admiring eyes gather on him. For the freshmen of Junyang Lingyuan Academy, Luyun is like an unattainable mountain, and will be their lifelong admiration. Even Luyun's deeds are so shocking that it gives people a dreamlike illusion. And Luyun, who is the person involved, remained calm in his heart when faced with countless gazes. Since showing his strength, he has long been accustomed to this phenomenon. Advertisement. At this time, there was a sound of footsteps not far away. Luyun looked around, but found four old figures. The four Shinigami in black death suits were expressionless, with a look of indifference. They are the real masters of the academy, aside from Captain Yamamoto. Back then, when Luyun blew up the classroom with a punch, the four of them secretly expressed shock and dissatisfaction, but since that incident, Luyun has never done similar things again, so this incident gradually faded away. But this time it was different. As one of the audience, the four of them witnessed Luyun's demeanor with their own eyes. Even Captain Yamamoto recognized Luyun's talent, which meant he was qualified for graduation. Reasonably, if ordinary students graduate, these four old Shinigami will not show up, and the ceremony will be completed by the student's mentor. However, since Luyun is the most outstanding student in Mao's history, the four of them had to appear at the ceremony in person. They stepped up to Luyun, and said in a solemn voice with complicated expressions, Luyun, everyone must have noticed your performance at the conference. Since Captain Yamamoto has recognized your strength, you also have the qualifications to graduate. Qualifications. The old man at the head was holding a neatly folded black deadly costume in both hands, and solemnly handed it to Luyun's hand, and said, from now on, once you wear this deadly costume, it means you have a new identity, Shinigami. Shinigami shoulders the responsibility of defending human beings, guiding and purifying the virtual, and then returning to the soul society. You will always remember it in your heart at any time, forever. Advertisement. Chapter 68 inexplicably became a hot commodity. Open black lens bracket subscription close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The news of Luyun's graduation not only caused an uproar in the Shinyang Academy, but also caused a huge sensation in Gotei 13. All those who have witnessed Luyun's demeanor with their own eyes are all moved by that powerful talent. For this reason, everyone is most concerned about which team Luyun will choose. After all, he is a genius who comes out once in a century. No matter which team he chooses, he will change the pattern of Gotei 13 virtually. No one doubts Luyun's future, because he is destined to be the captain in the future. First team building, team affairs room. Captain Yamamoto stood alone in front of the window, with a dignified look on his brows, and a bit of anticipation. He turned around and said in a deep voice to the rear, Chojiro Sasaki, how are you doing, have you got any news about Luyun? Deputy Captain Chojiro Sasaki shook his head, and said regretfully, sorry, Captain. I have sent people to inquire before this, but I still don't know what choice Luyun will make. But, according to Matsumoto Rangaku, Luyun seems to be more interested in the 11th team. Squad 11. Captain Yamamoto frowned slightly, and immediately thought of Zaraki Kenpachi in his mind. As early as the day of the meeting, he could see that Zaraki Kenpachi was eager to fight Luyun. That's why he immediately agreed to Luyun's request to avoid Zaraki Kenpachi from participating in the duel. Otherwise, with the character of this lunatic, the entire square will definitely be destroyed. That's right, Luyun seems to be very interested in joining the 11th team, especially when he heard the title Kenpachi, he was deeply attracted by it. Sasaki Jiro said earnestly. Advertisement. Captain Yamamoto nodded slightly, and said in a deep voice, so, I understand. The reason why he wants to join the 11th team must be to challenge Zaraki Kenpachi and compete for the title of Kenpachi. But in this way, it is not good for the whole team. It's a loss for Gotei 13. Although Captain Yamamoto did not object to Luyun's decision, there was a hint of worry in the depths of his eyes. As we all know, only the most powerful fighters of the Soul Society are eligible to bear the title of Open Black Lens Bracket Kenpachi Close Black Lens Bracket. It's just that only one Kenpachi can exist at a time. Therefore, if Luyun really wants to take away the honor of Open Black Lens Bracket Kenpachi Close Black Lens Bracket, he will not only simply defeat Zaraki Kenpachi, but even take his life with his own hands. Both Luyun and Zaraki Kenpachi, both from Rukongai, are shocking talents. No matter who gets into an accident, it is a huge loss for the entire Gotei 13. Anyway, let's just wait and see what happens. Commander Yamamoto sighed heavily, hesitating for the first time in his eyes that had always been immaculate. Immediately afterwards, Chojiro Sasaki reminded, Captain, the time is about the same. I think the captains of other teams are ready to go to the gate of Jingling Court to wait for Luyun. 17. Well, let's set off together. The old man wants to see with his own eyes what choice he will make. A gleam of expectation flashed deep in Captain Yamamoto's eyes. On the other side, the 2nd Division team building. As the vice captain, Omaeda Marekio stood respectfully in front of the wooden table, and said cautiously, Captain, it's getting late, I think Luyun should be coming to Jingling Court soon. Why don't we prepare in advance? Sui Feng nodded first, and then solemnly urged, go ahead, put aside the mystery about his identity. With his combat skills and Shunpo accomplishments, he is fully qualified for the position of stealth maneuvering. In this way talented people must recruit him to the 2nd team. As a fan team who is good at stealth and assassination, Sui Feng hopes that Luyun can join the 2nd team. After all, even she was shocked by her performance at the meeting that day. Yes, Captain. Following Sui Feng's order, Omaeda Marekio ran out of the house in a hurry, and immediately issued an order, calling on all the officers of the 2nd Division to go to the 4 gates of Jingling Court to wait. Advertisement. 5th team building. Different from the rush of other teams, this place is as calm as usual, and has not changed because of Luyun's coming. The team affairs room was brightly lit, and the door was closed tightly. No one knew exactly what Captain Aizen was doing inside. Inside the room, Ichimaru Jin's voice was heard. Oh, Captain Aizen. You don't even intend to recruit that brat. Ichimaru Jin folded his hands and leaned lazily against the wall. After a day of recuperation, all the injuries on his body healed. Aren't you too, Silver? Aizen glanced at him, and said calmly, since this morning, there has been no movement in the third team. It seems that you don't plan to recruit him, or are you afraid that things in the conference will repeat the same mistakes? 0 for flowers. 0. Hey, I didn't say that, Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin waved his hands, squinted his eyes, and said with a smile, I originally wanted to recruit him, but it was just an order from Captain Aizen. Silver, don't worry about it. Aizen stood up, her usual gentle smile was gone. He said coldly with a blank face, it doesn't matter which team he joins, even the first team. In our eyes, he is just an interesting experimental subject after all. Oh, I thought so too. 0. Advertisement. A fox-like smirk appeared on Ichimaru Jin's face, and he said coldly, with his physical strength, he must be able to withstand the strength of Hollow, right? That is the long-awaited experimental subject of Captain Aizen. Even compared to Hiroko Shinji and they are perfect. Yes, let us wait and see. The corners of Aizen's mouth rose, setting off a sinister arc, as if everything was under control. At this time, after leaving the Junyangling Academy, Luyun walked along the spacious street all the way, and finally crossed the Runlin block and arrived in front of Jingling Court. As the Jingling Court inside, it's really exciting. Luyun stopped and stopped, he looked up, and what he saw was a towering wall. This is a wall made of murderous stone, not only by being able to block spiritual power. It can also release the wave of decomposing spiritual power to produce a spherical protective cover to protect Seraite from the air to the ground. As long as you cross this wall, you can reach the Jingling Court smoothly. Not only that, if you want to enter Seraite from Rukongai safely, you must pass through one of the 4th gates. And they are Beidao, Qingliu, Hailang, Zua respectively. Since Runlin is the first street in West Rukongai, Luyun also came to Beidaman. Little did he know that all members of Gotei 13 would be waiting for his arrival. In other words, under inexplicable circumstances, he became a hot seller. P.S. Please subscribe, flowers, and comment on the honorable person. Advertisement. Chapter 69. Please start your performance. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Even Luyun himself didn't realize it, and somehow became a hot commodity. His arrival caused a sensation among all members of Gotei 13, including Captain Yamamoto, and everyone came to Beidaman to wait for his arrival. Huh, what's going on? Why can't I see the legendary guard? Seeing that the front of the Beidao gate was empty and there was no one, Luyun pondered in doubt. In fact, on weekdays, the 4 gates are guarded by guards, and the guards are guarded by heroes selected from the Soul Society, so the guards bear very important responsibilities. But this day was different, because if you want to go from Junyang Lingyuan Academy to Jinglingting, the Runlin block is a must-pass, so everyone has been waiting at Beidaman early, and the guards here have temporarily left. It's really a matter of 750, love. Luyun frowned slightly. If there were no guards to open the door for him, how would he go to the Jingling Court? Could it be that he wanted to destroy the door with brute force? Thinking of this, a look of hesitation appeared in Luyun's eyes, and after thinking twice, he still gave up this idea. Indeed, as long as he is willing to punch through Beidaman, no matter how strong the suppression effect of the killing stone is, it cannot stop the power of a punch. But once this gate is broken, it will undoubtedly cause a strong commotion in the Soul Society. Advertisement. After all, this gate has always existed since the birth of Gotei 13. In desperation, Luyun had no choice but to give up this idea and went straight to the front of Beidaman. The moment he came to the gate, with a loud bang, the huge Beidao gate opened automatically. Bang! As if affected by a force, the heavy gate rose slowly, gradually revealing a gap. Through this gap, Luyun could vaguely see the scene in Jingling Court. In addition to the majestic buildings, the first thing that catches the eye is the familiar Gotei 13. To his surprise, almost half of the captains and chief officers came to Beidao, and he even found the figure of Captain Yamamoto among the crowd. And when Luyun glanced around, their eyes quickly focused on Luyun. Eye contact, which contains different emotions. Luyun's eyes were filled with surprise. Originally, he thought he would pass through the Beidao gate alone, but he didn't expect many figures to appear here. The captains of Gotei 13 were full of anticipation and fiery eyes, as if they regarded Luyun as a baby who was about to be looted. Isn't this formation too exaggerated? Am I so popular? Luyun scratched his head, expressing his confusion. Obviously not long ago he slapped Gotei 13 in the face at the freshman meeting. It's only been a few days, and these are enthusiastic, as if they have forgotten the gap in the past. First team, second team, 6th team, 8th team, 10th team, 13th team. Advertisement. While counting, Luyun said with emotion, almost half of the team captains have come here, but it seems that the 11th team is missing. Am I not welcome by the fighting team? Thinking of this, a trace of regret flashed in Lu Yun's eyes. To be reasonable, if he insisted on choosing a team, I am afraid he would prefer the 11th team. After all, it is the team that shoulders the responsibility of fighting, and it also bears the honor of Kenpachi. No matter how you look at it, the first team is the most attractive. As for the other teams, although they are not weak, but in Lu Yun's eyes, they are all weaklings, so they don't have much interest. Look, Lu Yun is here. Accompanied by a sound, the audience suddenly boiled, and everyone moved forward in unison, blocking the entire Beidao gate. For a moment, Lu Yun seemed to be surrounded by crowds. Lu Yun. You are finally here. Captain Yamamoto stepped out of the crowd and came in front of Lu Yun, and said in a relieved voice, after you put on this Black Death suit, your identity will officially change. However, before that, you have the right to choose the team. He turned his body slightly, pointed at the huge crowd behind, and said in a deep voice, you also saw that more than half of the captains appeared here, and they came here just for you. As long as you want, you can leave immediately with them and become the leader of the team. A new member of the fan team. Of course, I also promised you before that you have the right to choose 13 fan teams. Therefore, even if the other captains do not show up, you still have the right to join their fan teams. After the captain briefly said something, he took the initiative to step aside. He is very clear that the next thing has nothing to do with him, it depends on Lu Yun's personal wishes and the efforts of several captains. Sure enough, when Captain Yamamoto retreated, several captains couldn't wait to step forward. Captain of the 2nd Division, Sui Feng. Advertisement. Captain of the 6th Division, Byakuya Kuchiki. Captain of the 8th Division, Hiraku Shunsui. The captain of the 13th Division, Jashiro 13 Lang. As for the Juban team, due to special reasons, the captain was not present and was replaced by Matsumoto Rangaku. They're all familiar faces, but that guy is here anyway. Lu Yun looked at them and murmured helplessly. The only thing that surprised him was the arrival of Byakuya Kuchiki. He has no intersection with Byakuya Kuchiki, and the latter always has a cold and paralyzed face, which makes Lu Yun feel that he deserves to be beaten. To be fair, Byakuya Kuchiki shouldn't be here. What was the real reason? Lu Yun didn't know very well either. At this time, Hiraku Shunsui took the lead, and with enthusiasm, he smiled generously at Lu Yun. Lu Yun, speaking of it, I should be the first person to invite you in Gotei 13 at 2.2. Do you remember half a year ago? In Run Lin and at the Izakaya, you were just an ordinary student at that time, and I offered an invitation. If I invite you again now, you will not refuse me again, will you? Hiraku Shunsui is very smart. He recalls the past first, draws the relationship between the two closer, and then sets up a pit for Lu Yun to jump. After all, he is one of the most qualified century-old captains. If he is rejected in public again, it will be tantamount to a real slap in the face. Secondly, when Lu Yun just crossed over, the first person he came into contact with was Hiraku Shunsui. Among all the captains, the two had the deepest friendship. Hiraku Shunsui's voice fell, and everyone's eyes were fixed on Lu Yun, eagerly anticipating his choice. For a time, the atmosphere became extremely heavy. Advertisement. Chapter 70. Please invite the next dreamer. Open black lens bracket. Subscription. Close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. For a moment the atmosphere became extremely solemn, and everyone's eyes were fixed on Lu Yun, expecting what choice he would make. Did Lu Yun choose to join the 8th squad because of his old relationship with Hiraku Shunsui, or did he refuse cruelly and not give the century-old captain any face? Does Hiraku Shunsui's emotion card really work? No one knows. Hiraku Shunsui stared at Lu Yun intently, his heart was complicated, he was expecting and worried. As the century-old captain, he was also a student of the First Shinyang Spiritual Academy. Although he looks frivolous on the outside, he has a calm personality and has always taken care of the overall situation. And the reason why he came here today was not a momentary impulse, but a sincere desire to win over Lu Yun. Although the strength of the 8th division has never been weak, there is no famous genius in the team, and it only relies on Hiraku Shunsui to support it alone. So he is eager to train Lu Yun as his successor. However, although Hiraku Shunsui's idea is beautiful, the reality is cruel. That's right, Nien has a unique advantage in terms of old love. To a certain extent, he rescued Lu Yun and brought him 20 to the hanging area, and everything happened later. Unfortunately, the reality is cruel. After some thought, Lu Yun finally gave his answer. The leader of the Beijing band. Lu Yun raised his head, hesitated for a moment, and finally refused cruelly. I'm sorry, although I am very grateful for your warm invitation, but I have to refuse. He said with a little embarrassment. I know that the 8th division is an intelligence team, and its duty is to collect intelligence, so I'm afraid I'm not qualified for this duty. Advertisement. Lu Yun euphemistically expressed his thoughts. In fact, From the very beginning, he did not intend to choose the 8th team. Although his duty was to collect information, it was only a soy sauce team after all. When Lu Yun responded, the chief officers of the 8th Division sighed with regret. They thought that Kyoraku Shunsui would win after playing the emotional card, but they didn't expect to be brutally rejected. For a while, the atmosphere became extremely awkward, and everyone fell silent. At this time, Kyoraku Shunsui spoke first, breaking the awkward atmosphere, and he said with a hearty smile, "It's okay, Lu Yun. You're right, with your talent and strength, I'm afraid it's a bit overqualified just to take on the job of intelligence collection. Even if you don't become a part of it, you will always be welcome in the 8th squad." Afterwards, he took the initiative to return to the crowd, leaving room for the next dream chaser. Among the crowd, Nanao Eyes, the deputy captain of the 8th Division, comforted, "Captain, don't be discouraged. Even we were rejected, and I'm afraid the other divisions are not sure." "That's right." Kyoraku Shunsui nodded and said, "Actually, I guessed the result from the very beginning." When Lu Yun stepped into Betaimon, his eyes only stayed on us for a moment and then looked around, as if looking for someone's figure. "I think that person is most likely the Zaraki sword." "What?" Eyes Nanao exclaimed. "Do you think he will join the 11th team?" "That's right. I'm afraid that except for me, the other captains present will be rejected." Kyoraku Shunsui smiled with interest, as if expecting a good show to be released. Sure enough, just after Kyoraku Shunsui stepped aside, Sui Feng and Omeda Marekio stepped forward at the same time. The two have huge differences in body size and expressions. One is as cold as an iceberg, and the other is submissive, and seems to have a hint of tact. Advertisement. Lu Yun, I am the captain of the 2nd Division and the commander-in-chief of stealth maneuvers. I would like to invite you to join the 2nd Division. Sui Feng was cold and arrogant as always, and didn't say too many words, even her eyes didn't want to. Kyoraku Shunsui is so passionate. "The 2nd team," Lu Yun murmured in a low voice, with a hesitant expression. Lu Yun is very clear about the duty of the 2nd Division, which is the criminal army. They are mainly responsible for executions, assassinations and secret infiltration investigation tasks. Although this is a good team, it is not attractive to Lu Yun. Just kidding, with the power of One Punch Man, he doesn't need stealth assassination at all. As long as he is tough, he can kill with one blow. Therefore, the 2nd team is a superfluous choice for Lu Yun. "I'm sorry, I refuse." Without much thought, Lu Yun refused without hesitation. Being rejected in front of the crowd, Omeda Marekio was furious. Before he could continue speaking, Sui Feng scolded him coldly. "Go back, it's a disgrace here." Sui Feng left the crowd without turning back. "But, Captain, this kid." Omeda stared at Sui Feng's back in fear, then glared at Lu Yun fiercely, finally gritted his teeth, and ran after Sui Feng all the way. Ever since, another dream chaser failed. There are only 3 teams left: the 6th team, the 10th team, and the 13th team. At this time, Byakuya Kuchiki, who has always been taciturn, took the initiative to step forward. Unexpectedly, he did not immediately invite Lu Yun, but instead asked, "What is your relationship with that woman named Rukia?" Rukia. Advertisement. Lu Yun was taken aback, and asked in surprise, "Why do you ask this question?" Byakuya Kuchiki had no expression on his face, and said in a frosty voice, 990, you just answer. "Best friends who depend on each other for life." Lu Yun responded. Byakuya Kuchiki frowned slightly, and said in a deep voice, "For that woman, I invite you to join the 6th Division, do you want to?" From the beginning to the end, Byakuya Kuchiki's tone contained a kind of arrogance, as if he had the right to despise others because of the noble blood flowing in his body. It is true that he has always been aloof and admired by countless people, but this method does not work in front of Lu Yun, and instead makes him feel disgusted. "I refuse." Lu Yun refused without hesitation, without even looking at Byakuya Kuchiki again. "Interesting guy. I'll come back to you again for women." After throwing out an inexplicable sentence, Byakuya Kuchiki led the 6th team's chief executive to leave without looking back. The atmosphere became awkward for a while, and more than half of the people left in a blink of an eye. Just as Jashiro Shisanlang, the captain of the 13th Division, was about to walk forward, there was a sudden commotion from behind. Everyone turned around, but saw and heard an arrogant voice not far away. "What are you doing? You guys also want to steal someone from Lousy?" Looking along the source of the sound, everyone was shocked, because the person who should not have appeared finally came. Team 11 Captain, Zaraki Kenpachi. Advertisement. Chapter 71 It's nothing, I just want to fight with you. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. What are you doing? You want to rob Lousy too? The figure of Zaraki Kenpachi suddenly appeared in the aisle. He was tall and straight, with a fierce aura, holding Zanpakuto with one hand and leaning on his shoulder, walking like a bully. The long-awaited captain of the 11th squad finally appeared. Different from the powerful formations of other teams, Zaraki Kenpachi only followed 2 figures behind him. Madarame Makaku, Ayasagawa Yumachika. As people who have followed Zaraki Kenpachi wholeheartedly since the Rukongai period, Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa Koki are Zaraki Kenpachi's confidants, and they are also the important combat power of Jujuban E. Captain, the situation doesn't seem to be good. The other teams have already arrived. Ayasagawa said with a little worry as he looked at the densely packed figures in front of him. Don't worry, didn't you see that guy Byakuya Kuchiki left dejectedly just now? You don't need to think about it and guess that they failed. Madarame Makaku smiled confidently. His shiny head gleamed under the scorching sun, which was particularly eye-catching. At this time, the cute Kusajishi Yakiru emerged from Zaraki Kenpachi's back, and complained dissatisfiedly with his small mouth. It's all because Xiaojian is a road idiot. I have been in Jingalingting for so many years, and I still get lost. Ha, these are irrelevant. As long as Laozi comes here, then Luyun is destined to be a member of the 11th team. Zaraki Kenpachi laughed wildly, arrogant, as if he never paid attention to other teams. Advertisement. It's no wonder that he has a bad temper and a maverick style, and he is not bound by the rules when he comes back. Zaraki Kenpachi is the first captain of Soul Society who doesn't understand Bankai. He can become the captain because of his fearless character and powerful Reiatsu. At the same time, he is the only one among the 13 captains who has not joined the team. Even Central 46 is afraid of his unfettered characteristics and terrifying strength. Ferocious face, powerful aura, coupled with that arrogant tone. Those who don't know the character of Zaraki Kenpachi will immediately mistake him for an out-and-out villain. In fact, Zaraki Kenpachi is a pure and passionate man, in his eyes only fighting. Fighting is like food and drinking water to him. He exists for fighting, and he regards fighting as more important than anything else, even ignoring the overall situation. Only fighting is the source of happiness. Because he enjoys the process of fighting, he will encounter strong as strong. The 3 of them walked forward all the way, rampant and domineering. Wherever they went, the other Shinigami retreated one after another, for fear of offending the god of death. The arrival of Zaraki Kenpachi surprised everyone. After all, half of the captains had failed and left, and Zaraki Kenpachi didn't appear until the end. This guy is finally here. In the corner beside him, Captain Yamamoto looked at the figure of Zaraki Kenpachi and nodded with satisfaction. He had already guessed that Zaraki Kenpachi would come here. After all, Luyun had suppressed Ichimaru Jin abruptly, and the strong strength he showed was the reason why Zaraki Kenpachi was attracted. The man who regards fighting as everything, the only thing he needs is a man who can please him, and Luyun is the most suitable candidate. Advertisement. Finally, Zaraki Kenpachi jumped over the crowd and came in front of Luyun. When he saw the figure of Jashiro Yukitake, he said dissatisfiedly, "Captain Jashiro, you are going too far." What? Jashiro Yukitake was stunned, and asked in surprise, "Why is it too much?" Facing such an outstanding rookie, every captain would be moved, not to mention that this is a fair act. The voice fell, he coughed lightly, and his body seemed to be a little unwell. As the captain of the 13th Division, Jashiro Yukitake is also one of the oldest century-old captains. Like Kiyoraku Shunsui, he is the first student of the Shinyang Academy and possesses great strength. Captain Jashiro is kind and has a good temper, so he has a lot of popularity in Soul Society. But there is one thing that has always troubled him, and that is his weak body. Although he possesses great strength, due to his weak body, he is often unable to exert his full strength, let alone handle a busy team for a long time. Therefore, Jashiro Yukitake is eager to recruit Luyun to plan for the future of the 13th Division. Unfortunately, before he could speak, Zaraki Kenpachi suddenly appeared. "Captain Jashiro, don't forget that there is another genius Shiba Kyan in Team 13. With the talent he has shown, he will definitely be able to be the captain in the future, so why do you need to do anything extra?" Zaraki Kenpachi did not give Jashiro Yukitake didn't save face, but said mercilessly. Mentioning Shiba Kyan, Jashiro Yukitake was taken aback for a moment, then sighed, and did not refute Zaraki Kenpachi's words. Indeed, Jashiro personally visited Shiba Kyan, the patriarch of the fallen nobleman, and invited him to become the vice-captain of the 13th Division. In the following years, he gradually handed over team affairs to Shiba Kyan, while he rested and recuperated. He has been grooming Shiba Kyan as a future captain for the past few decades. Advertisement. In fact, with the existence of Shiba Kyan, recruiting Luyun is really superfluous. After all, there is only one captain position, and another genius will undoubtedly be sacrificed. Captain Zaraki, you are right, I think Luyun is more suitable to join the 11th team than the 13th team. Jashiro Yukitake finally voluntarily withdrew from the competition. Ever since, In addition to the 11th team, there is still the 10th team. As the representative of the 10th Division, Matsumoto Rangaku also voluntarily withdrew from the competition without any hesitation. In fact, as early as last night, he already knew what Lu Yun was thinking, and he came here to stop him just to fulfill the captain's wishes. Zhao's, it's just that once Zaraki Kenpachi appears, there is no need for competition. In this way, the first 6 teams all failed, except for the 11th team. As a combat team, the 11th team has a higher status in Jingalingting, and the number of people is also the largest among all the teams. Because of the advocacy of chopping techniques, most of the team members are pure physics department, Zanpakuto. Looking at it this way, the 11th team is indeed tailor-made for Lu Yun. After all, what Lu Yun is holding in his hand is not a Zanpakuto, but an ordinary sealed state. At this time, Zaraki Kenpachi came in front of Lu Yun and said loudly, "Little ghost, are you willing to join the Kai right pointing arrow fan team? The original intention of my coming to you is very simple. It's nothing, I just want to fight with you. P.S. I wish you all the best and smooth sailing in the new year. Please subscribe by the way, thank you for your support." Advertisement. Chapter 72 The Strongest Seat Official. Open black lens bracket subscribe close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. It's nothing, I just came to fight with you. Zaraki Kenpachi raised the Zanpakuto on his shoulders, and stared at Lu Yun firmly, as if a hunter was staring at a prey. This look is creepy, and hides a kind of bloodthirsty chill. Zaraki Kenpachi's blood boiled with enthusiasm, as if the long-sleeping fighting spirit in his body had awakened again. Veins surged all over his body, and a shocking killing intent emerged in his body. The momentum is like a rainbow, straight to the sky. As a man who pleases himself with fighting and killing, in the eyes of Zaraki Kenpachi, power, status, and titles are all unimportant, only power is everything. When he saw Lu Yun's formidable strength, besides being shocked, he was more interested. The challenge between him and the chief officer kept burning his heart. The fighting spirit is soaring, it cannot be contained. At the end, Zaraki Kenpachi couldn't wait to rush to bait him in at the first moment, but unfortunately because of Lu Kai, he became the last captain to appear on the stage. "Captain, it doesn't seem right for you to be so direct." Madarame Makaku stared at Lu Yun solemnly, feeling embarrassed involuntarily. Reasonably speaking, if the reason for joining the fan team is to fight against Zaraki Kenpachi, a madman like 250, then I am afraid that no one will be willing to join the 11th fan team from now on, because that will cost their lives. Ayasagawa Yumachika agreed and said, "Captain, you will scare him like this. After all, he is still a newcomer. A team." The 3 Mavericks immediately greeted the dissatisfaction of the other team chiefs. In their view, Lu Yun's identity is no ordinary rookie, but the most outstanding talent Seoul society has ever seen. Advertisement. Treating such a genius should be treated with the highest treatment, let alone provocative. Many people watched with cold eyes. They thought that Zaraki Kenpachi was doing something, and such a frivolous attitude was absolutely impossible to get Lu Yun's approval. For a while, the atmosphere fell into embarrassment, and everyone talked about it. If you don't agree with someone, you will find someone to fight. Isn't Zaraki Kenpachi too arrogant? It's clearly here to spoil the situation. Even the leader of the Beijing band and Kuchiki were rejected. Just because of that lunatic, he must be rejected by Lu Yun. If I were Lu Yun, it would be absolutely impossible to join the 11th team. Most people are cynicizing around, and they are not optimistic about Zaraki Kenpachi. After all, he advocates violence and will kill people if he disagrees with him, which makes his popularity in Jingling Court not very good. But the final result still depends on Lu Yun's choice. For a moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Yun, expecting what kind of response he would make. Time passed by every minute and every second, and the atmosphere gradually became dignified. Not only those habits, but even the hearts of several captains were raised. They held their breath and stared at Lu Yun, expecting his choice. Once Lu Yun chooses to join the 11th team, it will undoubtedly increase the strength of the 11th team leader, and it will be more in line with the name of fighting team. If Lu Yun rejects Zaraki Kenpachi's invitation, there are not many choices left. So no matter what choice he makes, it will have a huge impact on Gotei 13. Advertisement. When the atmosphere of the audience climbed to the top, Lu Yun finally spoke. "Captain Zaraki, you said you came to find me for a fight. Is that why you want me to join the 11th team?" Immediately afterwards, his next sentence left everyone dumbfounded. "Aren't you afraid of being cut down by me?" CAFB, Lu Yun's eyes were burning, and Zaraki Kenpachi confronted each other. The auras of the two are constantly confronting and impacting each other. "Cut me down. Why do you make such a conclusion? You dare to talk nonsense before you fight me?" Zaraki Kenpachi laughed loudly, the long sword in his hand was already hungry and thirsty. If it wasn't for the presence of Captain Yamamoto, he would have rushed towards Luyun, and had a great fight. Actually, I'm also looking forward to the fight with you, Captain Zaraki. Although Luyun didn't answer directly, his words showed his willingness. He agreed to join the team. There is only one purpose, and that is to fight the man who bears the honor of Kenpachi. As Luyun's words fell, the audience was in an uproar. How is this possible? Such a rude and vulgar invitation can even impress Luyun. I haven't heard of it, have I? Luyun means to choose the 11th team leader. Advertisement. My god, I'm afraid the sky is about to change for Gotei 13. A talent who can stand up to Captain Ichimaru joins the 11th division, and the future of the 11th division is unimaginable. Those cynics were stunned and slapped in the face. In any case, they did not expect Luyun to make such a choice. After all, Zaraki Kenpachi didn't show any sincerity from the beginning to the end, instead he just wanted to fight Luyun. Facing the provocation of a lunatic, he took the initiative to throw himself into his arms. It can only be said that Luyun still does not follow the usual path. Captain, you guessed it. Eyes Nanao exclaimed in disbelief. She originally had the same idea, but the result was beyond her expectations. Xiao Shishu, let me just say it. Hiraku Shunsui said with a hearty smile. Luyun is not an easy guy. From the moment he took the initiative to challenge Captain Ichimaru in the meeting, I knew what he was pursuing in his heart, and only the 11th team is the most suitable for him. Place. Ha ha ha. Zaraki Kenpachi laughed wildly in the sky, and roared ecstatically. Great, no matter what you say, as long as you can join the 11th team, that's enough. Because then, I can fight with you happily. Finally, the things that had attracted countless people came to an end, and finally made his own choice, to join the third team. Henceforth, his identity is no longer that of a freshman Shinigami. And it will be the strongest executive ever in the Soul Society. P.S. Happy New Year everyone. By the way, I would like to ask for some flower evaluation tickets, thank you. Advertisement. Chapter 73. Do things as soon as you come. Open black lens bracket. Subscribe. Close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The uproar of Luyun joining Gotei 13 is finally over. And since his choice was within reason, it was also unexpected. From the perspective of combat power, Luyun is indeed the most suitable for the 11th team. After all, the team's duty is to protect the safety of Jingalingting, and it happens to be able to display Luyun's almost heaven-defying strength. However, many people were also surprised. After all, Zaraki Kenpachi, the captain of the 11th team, is a notorious lunatic, and he even opened his mouth to fight Luyun. Faced with the provocation of a lunatic, it was indeed unexpected to choose the fan team even though he might pay a heavy price at any time. Several families were happy and some were sad. As for those team captains who failed to get Luyun, they returned to their respective teams with dejected faces. In short, from this day on, Luyun has officially become a member of Team 11. However, here comes the problem. According to the rules of the Soul Society, with Luyun's strength, he should replace Madara as the new third seat after defeating Madara in public. And Madara Makaku himself is also willing to give up the position of the third seat. However, Luyun is not willing to be the third seat. 11th team building. Although it was early in the morning, there was a commotion in the 11th team. Noisy disputes sounded, and many voices of dissuasion came out. Although I didn't see the scene with my own eyes, whenever someone passed by the door of the 11th team's dormitory, they would always pass by in a hurry, for fear of being implicated. After all, the owner of the most violent voice was Zaraki Kenpachi. What an outrageous thing to do. Advertisement. Captain, don't be impatient, Luyun has just arrived in the 11th team, and he hasn't even completed the oath ceremony. If you fight with him at this time, I'm afraid it will arouse the anger of Captain Yamamoto. That's right, don't be impulsive, Captain. Your duel will destroy the entire team building. Captain, bear with me a little bit, the issue of the seats has not been arranged yet. At this time, openly fighting, if it gets out, I'm afraid it will make other teams laugh. The members of the 11th team tried their best to dissuade him, for fear that Zaraki Kenpachi would not be able to restrain his excitement from enjoying the fun of fighting. However, Zaraki Kenpachi, carrying the slender Zanpakuto on his shoulder, paid no attention to the members of the 11th squad. He said impatiently, "Don't buzz like flies, you all step aside quickly, I can't wait to have a fight with him." Due to Zaraki Kenpachi's hideous appearance and his strong body, which is 2 meters tall, he has a deterrent force virtually, making the members of the 11th team bow their heads and dare not speak anymore. At this time, a big bald head appeared in the crowd. Madara Makaku came in front of Zaraki Kenpachi and dissuaded him. "Captain, you can put aside the matter of fighting for the time being, let's arrange the seats first. You also know that Luyun defeated me with his own hands, and he should replace me as the new 3. However, he resolutely refused, only willing to become the fourth seat that has been vacant. What should we do? He turned around, looked at Luyun who was standing not far away, and sighed helplessly. On one side is Zaraki Kenpachi who is unreasonable and just wants to enjoy the fun of fighting, and on the other side is Luyun who refuses to be the third seat and just wants to stay in the 11th team silently. The two of them made trouble together, which immediately caused the 11th team to explode. Even the always optimistic handsome man Ace Chuan shook his head distressedly, expressing his helplessness. Advertisement. Seats don't matter at all. Zaraki Kenpachi waved his hand abruptly, and said as a matter of course, for you guys, what's the point of the seat? Isn't everything for enjoying the battle? Let alone the seat officer. As long as Luyun can cut me down, he can even become the captain of the 11th team. Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes were burning, and his fighting spirit was rising. He tightly grasped Zanpakuto's handle, staring at Luyun intently, longing for a hearty fight. It's just that when other people heard his words, cold sweat broke out on their backs. Cut down Zaraki Kenpachi and replace him as the new captain of the 11th squad. If it was anyone else, they would just think it was a joke. But on Luyun, it may not be impossible. 0 for flowers. If Zaraki Kenpachi is really knocked down in the duel, then the fate of the 11th team may change. How is it possible? No matter how powerful Luyun is, he will never be able to defeat the captain, you or Kenpachi. The members of the 11th team said solemnly. In their conception, Zaraki Kenpachi is almost immortal, and can never be knocked down. If Zaraki Kenpachi is really that easy to defeat, then he is not worthy of the title of General 8. Zaraki Kenpachi stared at Luyun and shouted with burning eyes, what do you know? Before I became the captain, I was also a bully in Rukongai. Since he and I come from the same neighborhood with the worst law and order, then Luyun can kill me. What's so strange? Don't forget, even Ichimaru Jin was suppressed by him. Advertisement. 0. Zaraki Kenpachi could no longer restrain the prehistoric power in his body, even though the team members still tried to dissuade him, he ignored them all. At this moment, in his eyes, there is only Luyun alone. For a moment, the atmosphere became extremely dignified, and there seemed to be a suffocating silence hidden in the air. At this time, Luyun, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke up. Oh, there's really no way. Luyun shrugged helplessly, and countless black question marks appeared on his face, expressing his innocence. He obviously just wanted to stay in the 11th team quietly, but he didn't expect that a major event would be caused as soon as he came. Although Luyun had already made mental preparations before coming to the 11th team's team building. But he underestimated Zaraki Kenpachi's dedication to fighting, and Luyun was shocked by his madness. But, in Zaraki Kenpachi, Luyun seemed to see himself in the past, to pursue strength and persevere. Perhaps for this reason, even though Zaraki Kenpachi's outrageous and unreasonable provocations, Luyun didn't feel the slightest disgust, but instead had a good feeling in his heart. Captain Zaraki, since you insist on fighting with me, then I will warm up with you. Advertisement. Chapter 74 The Terrifying Truth Open black lens bracket subscription close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Captain Zaraki, since you insist on fighting with me, I'll warm up with you. Luyun took a step forward, took the initiative to pull out the sealed state worn on his waist, and said calmly. From the eyes of Zaraki Kenpachi, he can clearly feel a strong desire, not only the desire for fighting, but also the pursuit of power, which is very similar to him at the beginning. Suddenly, Luyun saw his shadow on Zaraki Kenpachi. At the beginning, he also persevered and was extremely persistent in pursuit of strength. Although the ending of controlling the power in the end is not perfect, and instead makes him shrouded in the shadow of loneliness, it is always beautiful. It is with the power of One Punch Man that he mastered back then that he was able to discover a new dawn in Soul Society. That being the case, why refuse 223 Zaraki Kenpachi's request? This persistence alone is worthy of others. Luyun, don't be impulsive, the captain is not as simple as you think. Madarame Makaku persuaded with a sad face. Only me and my father have seen his true face. Back in Rukongai, the captain he killed like hemp, almost beheaded all the local bullies, and finally he was able to dominate the Kalu district. Once he was immersed in a battle, unless one side falls, the fight will never end. With lingering fear in his heart, he said in a deep voice, this is the scariest thing about the captain. He is a beast without sense of pain. The more he is bathed in blood, the more exciting he will be. Will never fall. Despite Madarame Makaku's repeated persuasion, Luyun remained unmoved, as if he had no fear in his heart. Advertisement. However, the calmer he is, the more anxious Madarame Makaku becomes. Madarame Makaku's face changed slightly, and he persuaded him earnestly, you must know it too. There are 3 ways to become the captain of Gotei 13. The first method is to pass the captain's exam under the witness of 3 or more captains including the chief captain, and then deliberately and logically assume the position of captain. The second method is to receive the joint recommendation of more than 6 captains, and get the approval of the other 3 or more captains among the remaining 7 captains, then you will be able to pass the assessment logically and take up the position. Actually, these 2 methods have a common condition, that is, you must master Bankai. Only by mastering Bankai can you control the most powerful power that Shinigami possesses. Otherwise, it is absolutely impossible to convince other captains. Madarame Makaku took a deep breath, and a look of longing appeared in his eyes. Every dead Shendu has a captain dream, and he is no exception. It's just because of the oath made at the beginning, Madarame Makaku may not be destined to be the captain for life, he will only follow Zaraki Kenpachi wholeheartedly, until he dies in battle. And then, Lu Yun asked calmly, are you afraid that I will fall under Captain Zaraki's Bankai? No, quite the opposite. Madarame Makaku shook his head, then said in a deep voice, you are wrong, Captain Zaraki doesn't know Bankai at all. When these words came out of his mouth, Lu Yun was completely stunned. Zaraki Kenpachi won't Bankai. How can that be? Advertisement. Although Lu Yun often heard the name of Zaraki Kenpachi when he was in Rukongai, he only knew that the other party was the captain of the 11th team, and he didn't know the specific strength of Zaraki Kenpachi. But according to Lu Yun's thinking, since he is the captain, he must awaken Bankai. Otherwise, it is impossible to have a convincing powerful force. However, his mother method is wrong. Not only did Zaraki Kenpachi not awaken Bankai, even Shikai didn't realize it. In other words, what he is holding in his hand is also an ordinary sealed state. How can that be? Lu Yun shook his head, expressing his doubts. As the captain of the combat team, he can't even know Bankai. I don't think this is possible. Besides, according to the 2 methods you mentioned, he should also know Bankai. No, I'm not pretending. Madarame Makaku interrupted Lu Yun and said in a deep voice, in addition to those 2 methods, there is a third method, and Captain Zaraki became the captain of the 11th team through this method. That's it. Lu Yun frowned slightly, curious inside. Point 0. Madarame Makaku said with a serious expression, the so-called third method is to kill the opponent one-on-one under the witness of more than 200 active team members. You mean? Lu Yun's pupils shrank suddenly, and he couldn't help looking at Zaraki Kenpachi. That's right. Advertisement. Madarame Makaku seemed to recall that scene back then, and said with pride and admiration, back then, Zaraki Kenpachi was here, and in front of everyone in the 11th squad, he personally beheaded the previous captain, Ogre Rock City Kenpachi. Lu Yun didn't say a word, but there were waves in his heart. Born in Rukongai, he has never been trained by the Shinyang Academy since he was a child, but he can kill the previous captain in a one-on-one duel with just an ordinary sealed state. This kind of deed is called a miracle. No wonder he can bear the honor of Kenpachi. Lu Yun pondered thoughtfully. At this moment, he understood why the members of the 11th team worshipped Zaraki Kenpachi fanatically and why the 11th team was called the bigger team. All because of a man named Zaraki Kenpachi. But after hearing the news, not only did Lu Yun not have the slightest intention to back down, but a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he said with a hearty smile, since it's 1.0, I have even more reason to fight Captain Zaraki. What? Madarame Makaku asked in surprise. Even if you know the truth, are you going to risk your life to fight Captain Zaraki? Although he vaguely guessed the result, Madarame Makaku was still unwilling to give up the last glimmer of hope. He didn't want to witness the tragedy happen. Zaraki Kenpachi doesn't know Shikai or Bankai, and he is holding an ordinary sealed state. Then this fight is fair. If so, why should I refuse? Lu Yun raised his arm, held up the sealed state, and pointed the sharp sword tip at Zaraki Kenpachi, with a high voice. Come on, fight with all your might, Zaraki Kenpachi. Advertisement. Chapter 75 Is this guy a snake maniac? Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Come on, fight with all your might, Zaraki Kenpachi. Lu Yun raised his arm, held up the sealed state, and pointed the sharp sword tip at Zaraki Kenpachi, with a high voice. In his calm water-like eyes, there was rarely a trace of seriousness. This means, Lu Yun really sees Zaraki Kenpachi as an equal opponent. Ha ha ha. Zaraki Kenpachi laughed wildly in the sky, and roared ecstatically. I've been waiting for your words for a long time, Lu Yun. Come on, let's throw away all the shackles, regardless of status or status. Let's fight quickly. The blood in his body boiled, and the long-lost battle was ignited, spreading like a spark to every corner of his body. Everyone in Zaraki Kenpachi seemed to be screaming with excitement, seeming to be inspiring for the upcoming duel. Only fighting can please Zaraki Kenpachi, and the appearance of Lu Yun makes him feel unprecedentedly excited. Lu Yun, listen up. Zaraki Kenpachi held up Zanpakuto, a ferocious smile appeared on his ferocious face, and he roared excitedly. Every time we give up our dignity, we take a step closer to the beast. Every time we kill a heart, we take a step away from the beast. And to end this cycle, the only way to fight is to fight. So, use all your strength until we fall. Advertisement. Zanpakuto slashed sideways, a seemingly insignificant movement, but in an instant the ground split open. At the same time, a majestic Reiatsu surged out of Zaraki Kenpachi's body like an ocean, sweeping around in a mighty way, making it difficult for everyone to breathe, as if they were under the pressure of a huge Reiatsu. After many years of silence, Zaraki Kenpachi is finally showing his wildest side. Feeling the oppression of the oncoming Reiatsu, Madarame Makaku sighed helplessly and stepped aside consciously. He knew very well that by now, no matter what he said, it would be useless. Once Zaraki Kenpachi released the Reiatsu in his body, it meant that this battle was inevitable. Well, I hope they don't lose both. In desperation, the only thing Madarame Makaku could do was to pray silently. In fact, out of recognition of Zaraki Kenpachi's strength, he actually felt that Luyun's situation was more dangerous. At this moment, Kusajishi Yakiru jumped into the air and stepped lightly on Madarame Makaku's shoulder. She murmured and said cutely, "Don't worry, Ajao. Xiaoyun is very strong, you don't underestimate him." Whoever said that I underestimated him, how can someone who can suppress Captain Ichimaru Jin be a simple character? Madarame Makaku said solemnly, "What I'm afraid of is, what if the captain is really defeated? Then the 11th team will be in chaos. After all, the 11th team is known as the Zaraki team, and Zaraki Kenpachi is the strongest that everyone is chasing. Once the strong fall, it is undoubtedly tantamount to the collapse of faith, and then the 11th team will become a mess. Also, how many times have I told you that my name is not Ajao?" Unable to drive away the lovely Kusajishi Yakiru, Madarame Makaku had no choice but to let the little loli stand on his shoulders. But when Kusajishi Yakiru's hands kept patting his bald head, Madarame Makaku finally couldn't bear it anymore and complained, Hey, you're enough, little guy." Madarame Makaku roared helplessly. He tried to drive the little loli away, but Kusajishi Yakiru stuck to him like nougat. Ayasagawa Yumachika on the side covered his mouth with a smile and said, "You two, stop fighting, and just concentrate on enjoying this duel. I believe the captain will not fall down." Advertisement. That's right. He is the man who bears the honor of Kenpachi. Madarame Makaku stared deeply at the back of Zaraki Kenpachi, and there was a strange flash in the depths of his pupils. This monster-like man is probably the only one who can make him follow him wholeheartedly. Under the signal of Zaraki Kenpachi, the members of the 11th team retreated to the side, leaving only the empty field in the middle of the team building. In the center of the venue, Luyun and Zaraki Janmu looked at each other. Neither of them said a word, and the atmosphere gradually became dignified. Although this duel did not attract as much attention as the General Assembly, it also touched the hearts of all the 10th Division teams. As time went by, the aura of the two continued to rise, and finally reached the peak. In the end, Zaraki Kenpachi took the lead. "Come on, let's fight. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time." He roared to the sky, and the majestic Reiatsu erupted like a storm. At this moment, his aura climbed to the peak, and even the surrounding space was somewhat distorted, as if he was oppressed by Reiatsu. Exclamation mark. Zaraki Kenpachi slashed down with a sword, and a huge crack burst open in the solid field, and the powerful force brought Reiatsu into the ground continuously. Click. Countless small cracks appeared on the ground, shocking like spider webs. Advertisement. Such a result was caused by momentum alone, which shows how powerful Zaraki Kenpachi is. At this time, an unexpected scene appeared. Zaraki Kenpachi's arm suddenly dropped 830, making an unexpected move. I saw him inserting Zanpakuto into the ground, tearing off the clothes on his upper body with both hands, revealing his strong chest. Isn't he going to attack? Luyun was at a loss and couldn't understand Zaraki Kenpachi's move at all. On the side, watching Zaraki Kenpachi's move, Madarame Makaku and Ace Chuan looked at each other, their faces changed, and they exclaimed at the same time, "Oops, the captain's bad taste has come again," but his opponent this time is Luyun. Cold sweat continued to break out on the foreheads of the two, and they were worried about Zaraki Kenpachi's move. For a long time, Zaraki Kenpachi has had a habit: whenever he meets an enemy, he will always take the initiative to show his chest and let the enemy slash a few times. This almost pervert hobby has also become his bad taste. However, perhaps due to underestimating Luyun's strength, Zaraki Kenpachi is still the same when facing this genius. "Come on Luyun, I'll let you slash me a few times first," Zaraki Kenpachi said excitedly, tearing up his domineering costume. "What?" Luyun looked confused, and gradually let go of the palm holding the sealed state, and looked at Zaraki Kenpachi helplessly. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind. Is this guy a snake maniac? Advertisement. Chapter 76 I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Is this guy a snake maniac? Luyun expressed helplessness, he couldn't understand Zaraki Kenpachi's behavior at all. It was obviously a passionate fight, why did the style of painting change, and it suddenly became a free slashing giveaway? Let you cut a few knives on my body first. Captain Zaraki, are you kidding me? When I make a move, even I am afraid of myself. Luyun put down Zanpakuto, and ran through 10,000 grass mud horses in his heart. Originally, he was already prepared and ready to go, waiting for Zaraki Kenpachi's attack, but he didn't expect that Zaraki Kenpachi would not take the usual path, but would make trouble. What? Luyun, I'm serious. Zaraki Kenpachi tore off the deadly costume with both hands, and provocatively said, come on, swing the blade at me with all your strength. It doesn't matter which part of the body, even the eyeballs, as long as you can cut me down. Zaraki Kenpachi raised a serene smile at the corner of his mouth, full of confidence, not afraid of his life being in danger at all. Before he became the captain of the 11th squad, whenever he encountered a prey, he liked to use this method to treat the enemy. In his view, this is a way to add fun to combat. Otherwise, once it's his turn to act, the enemy will soon be in a pool of blood, and then he will not be able to experience the fun of it. Luyun's expression was dull, and he was speechless for a moment. He originally thought that Zaraki Kenpachi was just a crazy man who was keen on fighting, but he didn't expect that he was also a pervert maniac with special hobbies. Advertisement. Take the initiative to let the enemy cut him. What kind of mentality is this? Luyun expressed helplessness. At this time, Kusajishi Yakiru, who had been standing on the shoulder of Madarame Makaku, pouted, stepped on his big bald head and jumped lightly, and came to Zaraki Kenpachi's shoulder. Great. Little sword is really heroic. Kusajishi Yakiru danced and laughed, looking very cute. Is that right? Zaraki Kenpachi grinned. This is a bloody gift for new players. Hey, Xiaojian, Ah Yun seems to be scared by you. Kusajishi Yakiru pouted, pointing at Luyun and said cutely. Stupid, how could he be scared in the face of such a good thing? Zaraki Kenpachi grinned. Kusajishi Yakiru turned his face away, and snorted coquettishly. HMPH, the guy who calls others stupid, he is the stupid himself. Yes. Zaraki Kenpachi tore off the deadly costume, and said in a deep voice, you just hide behind and watch, 8,000 streams. At this moment, Luyun couldn't bear it anymore, he waved his hand abruptly, and shouted loudly, are you kidding? It was obviously a fair fight, why did you let me slash first? It's a shame to attack someone who has no defense. I don't bother to do that kind of thing. Luyun's face was full of disgust, and he didn't make a move for a long time. Zaraki waved his hand and said with a little disappointment, what, didn't I say that? This is a bloody gift for new players. Come on, let's chop with all your strength. It doesn't matter whether it's the neck, the stomach, or the eyeballs. No matter which part of the body, as long as you are willing to swing the blade. Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes were fixed, and he said in a deep voice, whether it's killing or being killed, it's just a game to pass the time after all. What's the difference? Advertisement. So, hurry up and do it, Luyun. Zaraki Kenpachi roared vigorously, as if he was looking forward to Luyun's blow. Damn, you bastard. Luyun frowned and clenched his fists. Since coming to Soul Society, he has never been underestimated so much, even in the case of hiding his strength. He's the one with the power of One Punch Man, and his opponents let him slash for free. This kind of thing is simply killing me. Captain Zaraki, do you really insist on letting me slash first? Luyun's eyes flickered, and he tightened his grip on the sealed state. No one noticed that his expression had changed from being calm before to becoming a little more serious. This means that the next slash will be a serious blow. Come on, don't waste time. If you can kill me with one blow, that would be even better. Zaraki Kenpachi smiled ferociously, and pulled hard, exposing the whole chest of Han Wurserv in front of Luyun. Really? Luyun shrugged helplessly, and murmured inexplicably, I have never seen such a weird request. But since you insist on this, I will naturally not show mercy. At this moment, the favor left by Zaraki Kenpachi in his heart was gone, only the anger in his stomach. Luyun can no longer control the primordial power in his body. He raised the sealed state and came to Zaraki Kenpachi step by step, and his aura would gradually increase with each step he took. In the end, the Reiatsu emanating from his body almost condensed into substance, like a sea of Reiatsu floating in midair. Backquote him. This Reiatsu. Advertisement. After feeling this majestic Reiatsu, even the faces of Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa Koki, who are the third seats, changed in surprise at the same time. Especially for Madarame Makaku, a strong crisis emerged in his heart. He had fought against Luyun before, but the danger brought to him at that time was far less than it is now. Is he angry? Madarame Makaku took a deep breath, unable to believe the consequences. All in all, he had a bad feeling. Perhaps this move by Zaraki Kenpachi will cause a big event. Pat. With the sound of heavy footsteps, Luyun finally came to Zaraki Kenpachi. He stared at Zaraki Kenpachi coldly, then suddenly grabbed the handle of the sealed state knife, aiming the sharp blade at Zaraki Kenpachi. Come on, let's cut it down with one knife, Zhao's good Luyun. Zaraki Kenpachi smiled ferociously, and when he felt the Reiatsu in Luyun's body, the smile on his face became brighter. Captain Zaraki, don't blame me then. After saying this, Luyun's eyes turned cold, he raised the sealed state to the top of his head, and slammed it down. RJ. Contains a serious blow, unreservedly chopped on Zaraki Kenpachi. In an instant, Reiatsu rioted, sweeping around like a storm. At this time, something unbelievable happened. When the sealed state was split, Zaraki Kenpachi had a serious scar on his body. This scar spread all over his body, and the bones inside could even be seen through the wound. The snowflakes withered, and blood spewed out like mosquitoes from a fountain. At this time, Luyun put away the sealed state, and said in a cold voice with no expression on his face. I'm sorry, I've hit hard. Advertisement. Percent. Chapter 77 Crazy. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. I'm sorry, I'm being serious. Luyun put away the sealed state, and said in a cold voice with no expression on his face. A sharp scar appeared on Zaraki Kenpachi's body. This scar spread all over his body, and the bones inside could even be seen through the wound. The snowflakes withered, and blood gushed out like a fountain. Seriously slashing, Zaraki Kenpachi was seriously injured in an instant. Although he was still merciless, the power poured into the slash still broke through the layer of Reiatsu covering Zaraki Kenpachi's body surface. Zaraki Kenpachi's aura plummeted, and a lot of blood gushed out along the wound. Terrible. Wow. Zaraki Kenpachi suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood, his body swayed, the scarlet blood dripped continuously, staining the ground red. The skin was broken, the flesh was bloody, and the blood flowed bit by bit, along his abdomen and into the ground. Tick tick tock. At this time, the audience was silent, but the sound of the blood falling was so ear-piercing. Advertisement. Except for Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa, the other 11th team members were speechless and could not even believe this scene. In their eyes, Zaraki Kenpachi, who was so lofty, was almost stabbed to death by Luyun. This is too exaggerated 980. But even though they didn't want to believe it anymore, when the facts were in front of them, everyone still felt unacceptable. The only fortunate thing is that Zaraki Kenpachi did not die and is still tenacious. Captain Zaraki, this is the result you want. Luyun put away the sealed state, his face was expressionless, and he didn't feel any pity because of Zaraki Kenpachi's appearance. Reasonably, even Ichimaru Jin did not dare to take it lightly when facing him, and was forced to almost use Bankai. What's more, Zaraki Kenpachi also took the initiative to let Luyun slash him. In essence, the collision between slash and slash is also the confrontation between Reiatsu. It is precisely because of the unimaginable terrifying power contained in Luyun's body that he can easily break the layer of Reiatsu covering Zaraki Kenpachi's body, thus severely wounding him. Team leader. The members of the 11th team rushed forward, but when they stretched out their arms to help Zaraki Kenpachi, they were suddenly knocked away by Reiatsu from his body. Go away. Zaraki Kenpachi panted heavily, waved his hands, cabe, and stood upright. What was shocking was that there was no sign of pain on his face, but a horribly excited smile on his face. Ha, that's it, come on, swing your blade at me as much as you want. Zaraki Kenpachi, like a madman, tore up his upper body clothes and roared violently. At this time, his whole body was bathed in blood, but there was a ferocious smile on his face, which made people shudder like a monster. Not enough, Luyun. Advertisement. Zaraki Kenpachi roared excitedly. From that one knife, I feel that you are showing mercy, that would be too boring. Come on, try your best to cut me, no matter one knife or two knife, as long as you can cut me that's enough. Although the breath is sluggish, Zaraki Kenpachi's fighting spirit has become stronger. He is tall and straight, with black hair dancing, and the bell tied on his hair keeps ringing. Jingle bell, every sound can help him feel the powerful Reiatsu from Luyun's body, only in this way will he be more excited. On the other side, seeing Zaraki Kenpachi provoking like a madman, Luyun was taken aback. As this guy, really a lunatic? Luyun's eyes flickered, and his heart was extremely shocked. To be reasonable, he did have spare strength when he made the slash just now, because he was afraid of taking Zaraki Kenpachi's life with a single blow. However, he underestimated Zaraki Kenpachi's dedication to fighting. If you meet the strong, you will be strong, the more your life is in danger, the stronger your strength will be. Why don't you want to continue working? Seeing that Luyun was unmoved, Zaraki Kenpachi roared displeased. Then it's my turn, Luyun. Zaraki Kenpachi bared his teeth. His burly body seemed to burst out with a huge energy. He leapt into the air, and Zanpakuto slashed at Luyun's head sharply. Although the blood looks so terrifying, even creepy. Although the wound is broken, it doesn't mean that the battle is over, but it means that the original animal nature will erupt unreservedly, because only blood can stimulate the animal nature hidden in the body. When the beast broke out, Zaraki Kenpachi launched a fierce attack on Liami. It's really tough. Luyun's pupils shrank suddenly, and he waved the sealed state with his backhand, suddenly blocking Zaraki Kenpachi's slash. Advertisement. Boom. Despite the huge impact, his figure is still as stable as a rock. It's just that a huge deep pit appeared on the ground under his feet. No way, I can only be serious. Luyun's eyes were fixed, and he raised his arms high again, and chopped down in the air. Swipe swipe. 1, 2, 3. More and more scars appeared on Zaraki Kenpachi's body, and bloodline fell like raindrops, not only staining his clothes red, but also staining the ground of the 11th team building red. The scarlet blood flowed continuously along the ground, and even condensed into a river of blood. Ha! It's not enough. Come on, use a more brutal slash to slash me. This level is not enough to slash me. Although his body was covered with cuts and bruises, Zaraki Kenpachi's fighting spirit became more vigorous, like a warrior who would never fall down. Hateful. Luyun felt tricky for the first time, not because of Zaraki Kenpachi's strength, but also because of his almost crazy character. Perhaps, as Zaraki Kenpachi said, the battle will only end if he is beheaded. At this time, Zaraki Kenpachi wiped the wound with his palm, immediately licked the blood on his palm, swallowed it hard, and roared ecstatically. It's great. That's the feeling. The taste of blood is really exciting. After many years, he once again experienced the taste of life and death. Behind, Kusajishi Yakiru also showed a smile. Seeing Zaraki Kenpachi dying, she still didn't have any worries. Great. I haven't seen Xiaojian so happy for a long time. Maybe Luyun is really the person Xiaojian has been waiting for many years. Advertisement. Chapter 78 Sword Zen Open Black Lens Bracket Subscription Close Black Lens Bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. It's been a long time since I saw Xiaojian so happy. Kusajishi Yakiru squatted on the eaves, propped his chin with his hands, and a cute smile appeared on his pink face. But, in this way, the little sword is very likely to die. But she soon curled her lips with a sad face. As a person who depends on Zaraki Kenpachi, she knows Zaraki Kenpachi's limit very well. Although Zaraki Kenpachi looks ferocious now, this one is only inspired by the long silent, beast nature. And once that momentum wears off, Zaraki Kenpachi goes down with an injury too severe. This guy. Luyun frowned and had to take a step back, putting down the sealed state in his hand. Although he swung the blade again and again, not only failed to cut Zaraki Kenpachi, but made him even crazier. Confronted with this almost madman-like behavior, even Luyun himself felt the creeps. Zaraki Kenpachi. No wonder he is known as a man with immortality. It seems that it is not easy to compete with him. Luyun sighed sadly. In fact, it is not impossible to chop Zaraki Kenpachi. Luyun only needs to use the power of One Punch Man, and he can easily kill Zaraki Kenpachi in seconds. It's just that in that case, it will be premised on paying Zaraki Kenpachi's life. Luyun didn't want to bear such a heavy price. Facing the provocation of Zaraki Kenpachi, he is helpless. When he saw Luyun stop again, Zaraki Kenpachi was taken aback, and immediately roared dissatisfied. Why? Keep going, Luyun. I just enjoyed the fun of fighting. Why did you stop again? Zaraki Kenpachi held up the sealed state and roared. If you don't want to make a move, then don't blame me. As the voice fell, the figure of Zaraki Kenpachi surged out again, holding Zanpakuto in his hand and slashing at Luyun. Advertisement. It's really no fun. This time Luyun was really angry. A simple sentence, but it contains a terrifying reiatsu that makes people tremble. Luyun raised his arm high, grasped the sealed state tightly, and then slammed it down. In an instant, a slash like a stream of light streaked across the air, slashing forward aggressively. Wherever the slash went, all the ground collapsed. Brush. Even though the slash was gradually enlarged in his eyes, Zaraki Kenpachi still didn't have the slightest fear, and the blood in his body seemed to become more boiling. The stronger the enemy, the more excited he feels, and the more violent the reiatsu inside him. As expected, you didn't use all your strength at all. You're really a monster. No wonder Captain Yamamoto valued it. Only falling down in this way is the most enjoyable ending to enjoy the battle. Zaraki Kenpachi roared to the sky, a terrifying reiatsu vented like a tsunami. At this moment, he He unreservedly released all the power in his body to fight Song Wei. Come on, let's make the final blow with all our strength. Not only did Zaraki Kenpachi not flinch, but he held up the Zanpakuto, rushing towards the slash with joy. Boom. There was a violent collision between Reiatsu, and countless cracks centered on the two of them, spreading to the surroundings, covering the entire 11th team building densely in just a moment. All around, the members of the 11th squad panicked. They fled towards the surroundings with pale faces, for fear of being swallowed by this terrifying energy storm. The ground shattered, houses collapsed, and countless sawdust flew across. When the two forces sublimated to ultimate, a 10-meter-high Reiatsu beam of light exploded, enveloping the figures of Zaraki Kenpachi and Luyun. Advertisement. Boom. The Reiatsu riots destroyed everything they went. Even Madarame Makaku and a Yasugawa Koji had to flee far away to avoid being affected by the energy storm. Small sword. Kusajishi Yakiru's expression also became disappointed. Since she has followed Zaraki Kenpachi since she was a baby, she has always known Zaraki Kenpachi's strength. Even in the most brutal Zaraki district, almost no one is a match for Zaraki Kenpachi. But this was the first time Kusajishi Yakiru met someone who could push Zaraki Kenpachi into a corner, and she even felt that Luyun's strength seemed to be more than that. Xiao Jian, don't die. At this moment, the only thing Kusajishi Yakiru can do is to pray that a miracle will happen and Zaraki Kenpachi will survive. 0 for flowers. 0. On the collapsed ground, Zaraki Kenpachi fell to the ground dying. His clothes were in tatters, and he was wearing a bloodline Madara. If it wasn't for that arm that was still only holding the long sword, they might have mistakenly thought that he was dead. This brutal and bloody fight was finally won by Luyun. Although Zaraki Kenpachi didn't die, he was unconscious and nearly fell into a coma. It is clear to all that Zaraki Kenpachi lost. What's more serious is that with the spread of the Reiatsu storm, the 11th team's team building was almost destroyed and became desolate. Advertisement. Madarame Makaku first looked at Zaraki Kenpachi who fell to the ground, and then looked at Luyun with a gloomy face, and sighed helplessly. 0. In fact, he had already guessed that this would be the result. No matter who falls, Luyun or Zaraki Kenpachi, the 11th team building will be destroyed because of the battle between them. The only good thing is, Zaraki Kenpachi is still alive. Luyun, under the witness of all the team members, you defeated the captain. Madarame Makaku came in front of Luyun and said with mixed feelings, although I don't want to admit it, but the facts are in front of my eyes. According to the old rules of Gotei 13, you are qualified to be the new captain. Duty as captain, to be the new Kenpachi. Luyun murmured in a low voice, and immediately said without hesitation, no, I refuse. Whether it is the position of captain or the honor of Kenpachi, I am not interested. From the beginning, I just want to stay quietly in Shifen team, just to be your partner. What? Madarame Makaku was taken aback, and asked in surprise, you really intend to only serve as the 4th member of the 11th team? That's right. Luyun raised the corner of his mouth and smiled slightly. I'm just a newcomer, wouldn't it be more perfect to blend in with you without breaking the original pattern? What's more, through this battle, I seem to have touched the edge of awakening Zanpakuto. Luyun knows very well that the only thing he can do to awaken Zanpakuto is to do sword meditation. P.S. Today's 6th update. Please subscribe automatically, please ask for flower evaluation tickets, and Shikai will be requested below. Advertisement. Chapter 79 Let me take the blame. 1/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Luyun has an intuition, he seems to have touched the edge of Shikai. Through this battle, he released the Reiatsu in his body to his heart's content. In the past, because the power of One Punch Man in the body was too great, Reiatsu, which existed in the body itself, was suppressed. Over time, the transmission between Reiatsu and Zanpakuto also became slow and even stagnant. This is why Luyun always holds the sealed state in his hand, not Zanpakuto. As we all know, Zanpakuto's shape and abilities are based on the Shinigami's own soul. A Shinigami gains power by knowing the name of the Zanpakuto given to them, and by having a spiritual dialogue with it. Born with the Shinigami, died with the Shinigami, this is Zanpakuto. Due to the suppression of Reiatsu, the flow, 290, Cloud has been unable to communicate with Zanpakuto in depth, and thus has not been able to learn Zanpakuto's name. More importantly, when his sealed state collided with Zaraki Kenpachi's Zanpakuto, there was a faint resonance. It was the vibe of a longing to break free from the sealed state. This shows. Zanpakuto of Zaraki is crying. I seem to hear its knife screaming. Luyun was stunned for a moment, he looked at Zaraki Kenpachi, and pondered in surprise. Obviously he has an extremely powerful Reiatsu, but he still can't exert his full strength, this may be the reason for the Zanpakuto Yuan Ming in his hand. Advertisement. He vaguely remembered what the Shinigami teacher had said when he first enrolled. Once Zanpakuto fights with people who cannot trust each other, not only will they not be able to exert their full strength, but they will even offset each other's strengths. This matter will never be understood by those who only believe in their own strength. And Zaraki Kenpachi is such a person, so he is the only person in Gotei 13 who can't be Shikai. Am I also such a person? Luyun's eyes flickered and he pondered thoughtfully. Indeed, from entering the Junyang Ling Academy to obtaining the sealed state, he has always relied on the power of One Punch Man to fight, but he has never really understood the sealed state in his hands, weapons to use. Perhaps for Luyun, the power of Shinigami is dispensable and not important at all. After all, as long as he is willing, he has the ability to kill the enemy with one punch. However, his identity has changed now. Leaving everything behind, he is now a Shinigami. Now that it has become a Shinigami, it must be inseparable from Zanpakuto, so the awakening of Shikai is inevitable, but it is long overdue after all. No matter what, let's wait until the moment of Saber Zen. Luyun made up his mind, as long as the opportunity comes, he will use the Saber Zen to awaken Shikai. Every dead Shendu has a unique space in his own spiritual world, and he gains power by talking to a part of his soul, that is, Zanpakuto. This is the so-called Knife Zen. Advertisement. Sword Zen is the easiest known method to communicate with the soul of Zanpakuto. Once successfully entered into the soul space of Zanpakuto, most of them successfully awaken Shikai. On the other side, as the battle came to an end, members of the 11th team hurriedly cleaned up the ruins. Due to the battle between Luyun and Zaraki Kenpachi, the entire 11th team building was almost destroyed, more than half of the buildings collapsed, and there were ruins everywhere as far as the eye could see, as if they had experienced a natural disaster. Hurry up and lift the rubble away and clean the ground again. Madarame Makaku sighed helplessly while commanding in an orderly manner. At the same time, under his order, several members of the 11th squad lifted the unconscious Zaraki Kenpachi go back to the team room. Oh, what a headache. Madarame Makaku patted his head and said helplessly, although both of them are safe and sound, this team building was almost destroyed. Once the captain blames me, I will be the one to blame. Madarame Makaku shudders whenever he thinks of Captain Yamamoto's majestic face. Although Zaraki Kenpachi is the captain of the 11th team, he always does his own thing and is not bound by the rules. As the vice captain, Kusajishi Yakiru is Zaraki Kenpachi's little follower, and he also doesn't like to deal with team affairs. Ever since, the heavy responsibility fell on Madarame Makaku and Yasugawa Komi personally. And once the captain of Yamamoto blames it, the first to bear the brunt is Madarame Makaku, who is the third seat. At this time, Luyun came to Madarame Makaku, looked at his frowning face, and asked, Madara Musanshi, what's wrong with you? Is there any problem that cannot be solved? If there is a need, I will also can help. Madarame Makaku said helplessly, the destruction of the team building will definitely arouse the anger of Captain Yamamoto. After all, Jingalingting has always been a peaceful place. Besides, when the captain falls into a coma, I will definitely be reprimanded. Advertisement. So it's just a trivial matter. Luyun raised his head and said with a hearty smile, it was because of my battle with Zaraki Kenpachi that the team building was destroyed, so I will take the blame for this. Luyun, you. Madarame Makaku wanted to say something more, but finally gave up. After all, Luyun was recognized by Captain Yamamoto, so it is understandable to be forgiven. On the other side, earlier, the Reiatsu storm caused by the confrontation between Zaraki Kenpachi and Luyun had already swept the entire Jingaling court along the 11th team building. Almost everyone felt this terrifying Reiatsu, and the team is no exception. First team building, Chief Captain 5.9 Team Affairs Room. Old man, let me just say, Luyun joining the 11th team may not be a good thing. Hiroku Shunsui kept fiddling with the straw hat in his hand, gloating. Humph. Captain Yamamoto looked serious, and snorted displeased. You actually violated the rules and openly engaged in a life and death duel in Jingaling Court. That guy Zaraki Kenpachi really couldn't control his desire to fight. Sir, I heard that Zaraki Kenpachi was seriously injured. Hiroku Shunsui said in a deep voice. With such a serious injury, I am afraid that only Captain Unohana Retsu can heal him in a short time. I think it is better to let Captain Unohana Retsu go to the 11th team. I heard that she has been very interested in Luyun for a long time. Advertisement. Chapter 80 Unohana Retsu, 2/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. I heard that Captain Unohana Retsu has long been interested in Luyun. Hiroku Shunsui said with great interest. Unohana Retsu is also interested in Luyun. Captain Yamamoto's eyes were fixed, and he said in a deep voice, it's no wonder. I think it's because Luyun showed his talent in cutting skills at the conference, right? That's right, old man, you think the same as I do. Hiroku Shunsui reminisces about the past, and sincerely said, After all, Unohana Retsu was the first-generation Kenpachi back then. Although she has served as the captain of the medical team these years, I think her nature has not changed. She is still interested in fighting and fighting. Slashing has a persistent pursuit. Unohana Retsu, although he is the captain of the 10th squad now, is also one of the 4 captains who have served the longest. But, thousands of years ago, everything was different. Unohana Retsu, who had a gentle and elegant appearance, was not like what he is now. Before he joined Gotei 13, he was an unprecedented villain in history. Later, he was accepted by the captain of Yamamoto and became the captain of the 11th team in first generation Gotei 13. First generation Kenpachi, Unohana Retsu Yakiryu. Once upon a time, she boasted that she mastered all schools and knife styles in the world, and named herself 8,000 styles. Afterwards, Unohana learned Kaido from Kilin Temple Tenshiro, in order to enjoy the fun of fighting more. She went to Rukongai in the name of fighting against Rukongai gangsters to find her favorite warrior. As a result, she encountered Zaraki Kenpachi in the grass deer area, and the two sides fought desperately. In the end, Unohana Retsu lost. Since then, everything about Zaraki Kenpachi has been buried in Unohana Retsu's heart. And when the news of the duel between Luyun and Zaraki Kenpachi came out, it touched Unohana Retsu's heart instantly. Advertisement. The quarters of the 4th team. The atmosphere here is quiet and the environment is elegant, which is in stark contrast with the 11th team that has been turned into ruins. Because it is a special medical team, the members of the 4th team do not have strong strength, but have mastered superb medical skills. Team room. Unohana Retsu stood alone in front of the window, looking out of the window without saying a word, seeming to be preoccupied. She has a gentle and peaceful appearance, with long black hair parted in the middle. Because I want to cover up the scars from the fight with Zaraki Kenpachi, I usually wear my hair in a braid and hang it in front. Zaraki Kenpachi was actually defeated. Unohana Retsu murmured in a low voice, seemingly unbelievable in his words. Although she had witnessed Luyun's strength in the conference, but when Zaraki Kenpachi also fell, she couldn't accept this huge psychological shock for a while. At this moment, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. Da da da. Unohana Retsu turned around, only to see Deputy Captain Katetsu Azane walk into the room with a look of haste. Team leader. Katetsu Azane said solemnly. I just received an order from Captain Yamamoto. He hopes that you can go to the 11th place to treat Captain Zaraki's injury. Why? An order from the captain. Unohana Retsu froze, feeling very surprised. Advertisement. After all, for hundreds of years, Captain Yamamoto has rarely given orders, and Unohana Retsu, as one of the oldest Shinigami, has always been independent and unrestrained. Although the duel between Luyun and Zaraki Kenpachi this time caused a huge commotion, everyone knew that with Zaraki Kenpachi's almost pervert body, even if he didn't deliberately treat it, he would recover quickly. So what is the purpose of the captain's order this time? Could it be for Luyun? Unohana Retsu frowned slightly. She vaguely guessed Captain Yamamoto's thoughts, and only the talented Luyun could win the favor of Captain Yamamoto. From Luyun, Unohana Retsu also seems to see himself thousands of years ago, possessing strong strength, but easily hurting the people around him. Captain, are you going to the 11th team? Katetsu Azane asked suspiciously. Let's go. Since the captain gave the order deliberately, let's go to the 11th team. It just so happens that I am also very interested in Luyun. Unohana Retsu smiled softly and charmingly. Yes, Captain. Katetsu Azane nodded slightly, followed her footsteps and left the 4th Division team building. On the other side, the 11th team building. After a whole morning of cleaning and sweeping, the broken walls and ruins in the ruins have been swept away. There are many dying buildings on the empty site, and the 11th team has returned to its original appearance. Team room. You should have received the news, right? I heard that Captain Unohana Retsu is coming to treat Captain Zaraki's injury soon. Madara Makaku said ecstatically. In his opinion, once Unohana Retsu, who possesses superb medical skills, makes a shot himself, Zaraki Kenpachi's injuries will definitely heal quickly. Advertisement. Hee. That's really great. Xiaojian has been in a coma for a long time. Kusajishi Yakiru said with his mouth covered, frowning. She jumped up and easily landed on Luyun's shoulders, and comforted her cutely. Ah Yun, you don't have to blame yourself. Although Xiaojian was seriously injured, he found unprecedented happiness. Instead, I should help him, thank you for that. Luyun smiled slightly, stretched out his palm and pinched Kusajishi Yakiru's pink face, and said with a hearty smile. I'm sorry, as the 4th seat of the fan team, Zhao Wangchao was not able to do so in this accident. How can I help you? It's nothing. Just leave these things to the little ones. Ace Chuan waved his hand and said nonchalantly to Lu. At this moment, there was a sound of steady footsteps outside the door. Everyone turned around quickly and stared at the door tightly. Squeak. When the door opened, a graceful figure came into view. It was Unohana Retsu, the captain of the 4th Division. Captain Unohana Retsu, you are here. Madarame Akaku and Ayasagawa Yumachika bowed slightly and said respectfully. Don't worry, I will treat the injury of the bigger captain. Unohana Retsu signaled with a smile, and at the same time shifted her gaze to Luyun, and took the initiative to cast a kind and moving smile at Luyun. Are you Luyun? I've wanted to meet you for a long time. Advertisement.